today. Knowing what you know just makes it harder to think straight. Starting over after it breaks. Starting over when the story's got an astounding twist. You better turn that page. When push it comes to shove, we do not fall out of love. We double down, we do not fade. For all I know, this might be my last night. That's how it goes. There's no one I would rather be lying beside. It all comes crashing. It all comes crashing. Starting over won't be easy. Damage be damned. Please say you love me just as I am. Starting over won't be easy. Misunderstand that pattern. Fear is forcing your hand. Knowing what you know just makes it harder to think straight. Starting over after it all breaks. When push it comes to shove, we do not fall out of love. We double down, we do not fade. For all I know, this might be my last night. That's how it goes. There's no one I would rather be lying beside. If all we knew came crashing down tonight, I'd be with you. And there's no one I would rather be dying beside. When it all comes crashing down. When it all comes crashing down. We'll come crashing down together. Don't expect to live forever. We'll come crashing down together. Let it all come crashing down tonight. We'll come crashing down together. Don't expect to live forever. We'll come crashing down together. It all comes crashing. For all I know, this might be my last night. If that's how it goes, there's no one I would rather be lying beside. If all we knew came crashing down tonight, I'd be with you. And there's no one I would rather be dying beside. It all comes crashing. When it all comes crashing. When it all comes crashing.
You wanted this, so sad to see the sweet decay of ecstasy. And you want it all. And you want it all.
rent. We swam like rats on fire right down the reservoir. We took all that we could carry, but we tried to carry them all. And you know, it all went wrong. You know, it was all wrong. Choked on straight tap water. Well, I'm gonna have to try the real thing. I took your lap by the collar and it knew not to swing. Anytime I tried an honest job, well, the tail had a hole in. We laughed about paying rent, 'cause the county jail's debt free. You know, it was all wrong. You know, it was all wrong. Deep water, senseless midnight. I went down like a rag doll, ready with child. Well, deep water, senseless midnight. I went down like a rag doll, ready with child. Well, oh, lucky me again. I said it looks like it's time to use my feet again. Well, I just spent my last $100. I'll pay my bill again. Oh, no, man. I don't care. I just don't care. Deep water, senseless midnight. I went down like a rag doll, shook on the child. Oh, deep water, senseless midnight. I went down like a bird down, red top of child. Well, King Rat has me on his lips again. I can never be on the fence again. Well, I found out it's all wide open like an organ and it talk, be a woman. All the people when I see them, but I could hold them all. Well, lucky me again. Water, senseless midnight. I got dead like a fish full of open smiles. I went through water, deep water, oh, senseless midnight. I got fed a fish by the cock, fuck smiles. Wow, what do you have to say for your bill? I said, wow. I said, lucky me again. I hardly knew I should use my feet again.
I been fucking niggas since the 5th grade. Really ain't no difference in that nigga game.
Blood satellite.
Are we in it? Are we doing it?
We're here. Hello.
Hey,
Hello,
okay.
how's it going, guys?
Not
Oh,
bad,
I'm
man. How you
doing okay. Judas, your fucking volume's all guffed up.
Is it too loud? Is it too quiet? What's going on?
It's a little quiet. You know what? It's distant.
All
Are you
right.
how are you at the mic? Get close.
Okay.
Too close.
How about now, babe?
Ah, it's too bad. It's bad. This is a bad start. Okay, we got a few. I got a couple. I'm here with Meta Prime. We got Meta Prime in the house, everybody.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Very happy you're here. We've had him on the show before. I've been on his show before. It's going to be a great time. We get along great. People are talking about this show. We got someone in the comments here. Got to get to this first. And we got the great White North. He's asking, am I going to be doing sound effects? I don't know. Am I?
There it is.
We always do a quick sound effect check here. You know what? We got a
Woman moment.
okay, good. We
Oh,
got
perfect. We're going to be using a lot of that.
Yeah.
First of all, before we get started, a little bit of show house clean here for fans of the show, friends of the show, Blood Satellite. We have an update on cheese alert. Judas, I've informed you. So for a bit of background here, we have listeners, friends of the show who mail us things. Oftentimes, items. That means that books sometimes that we cover on the show. If people would like to know that, I'm not going to give it out right now, but if you want to figure out how to get in touch with me. But we got one intrepid listener named Kel Thura, who likes sending us cheese. And he sent us a whole big, nigh a crate of cheese in the past. And it was a bum batch. And part of that was to blame for me. I accept some responsibility. I kept it in my dry room over the winter.
3 months.
Who's counting? like I was saying, it cost you nothing not to throw me under the bus on that one. But and then I got a new shipment in, and I ran and I got it. So, my neck's not gonna be on the guillotine. And opened it up, and kind of looked odd because he wraps it up really nice. And the place I picked it up at, you can tell they were excited to get rid of it because it reeked. It would have been there for maybe a day or two. And let me just say this. I'm going to say something without saying something. It is Indians that work in this place. And even they're like, get this shit the fuck out of here. So let's just say, okay. And then I take it home. I get it out, and I take a photo, and I'm like, oh, this must be, it looks kind of funky. I'm like, this must be some of that green plastic wrap that you hear about.
Oh, no.
I took a photo, sent to Kel. I'm like, oh, did you use green plastic wrap to wrap this? He said, uh-oh. So once again, it appears we got a crate of, I don't know how cheese can spoil that bad, but it's toxic as far as I'm concerned.
Damn.
You want it? You want to take it off my hands?
Yeah, I'll come get it. I'll put it in the compost.
Dude, this is Metaprime. This is what the show is all about. It is wasting the listeners' time. Okay, so what do we got? Just a couple of chats to get through. Patchwork is here saying, first an episode about balls. Now we're streaming on Titty Tuesday. Fantastic. It is Titty Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
This is a show for men who have seen boobs. I tell you what, if you haven't seen boobs, you can get the fuck out. There's gonna be a lot more here, and no hypotheticals. No, I dreamed a titty. All I'm gonna say is we've dealt with this before. I don't want to have those people in the mix. We got Requited here representing the Beaver Gang. This is the Jay Burden listener base. Of course, we love to hear from them. What else? Oh, we got Minoan saying hello. Great post. I'm no stranger to a hello post. So anyway, we're going to move on. Let's get to the meat of it, because we actually do have quite a few listeners tuning into this right now.
Nice.
There is a lot of discourse going on right now. Let me see if I can just pull this up right now. Meta Prime recently got into, what would you call it? Not a debate with Sargon of Akkad. And
I don't think you can call it like a debate when it's just quote tweeting somebody, but maybe some online dunking is the appropriate term.
Mm-hmm.
I had this pulled up on my screen, and for some godforsaken reason, I have lost it. I'm wondering, can you perhaps link to me in the chat your thread on this that summarized it oh so well? If you can find that.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'll send it over. I pulled it up. I did my homework before I came on your podcast. I didn't want to look like any unprepared charlatan over here.
See this? He's trying to curry favor with the audience. He's trying to pull a Judas. He's trying to be like, oh,
yep, that's how you do it.
this is my show now. But you know what? maybe it's everybody's show. All right, so I'm just
It's
gonna
the people's show.
It is the people's show. So now this is here we go. This is related to a previous episode we had. Actually, the previous 2 episodes on Blood Satellite. The first one was discussing, I'm going to put it briefly, discussing how our ideas begin to propagate into other scenes and spaces, and how those scenes, with different first principles and sort of ideological priors, take our ideas and then warp them into something else. One example we gave was how this thing called the longhouse seems to change definitions depending on what scene or space is using it. Right, that's an interesting phenomenon. Then the last episode we were talking about, we were referencing primarily Lawrence Southern, Alex Kashuta, and the narrative that we're going to talk about right now, which has been brewing for a couple of weeks, about the role of women in, let's just call it broadly, the right wing. I don't want to just call it the dissident right, because I do think this is expanding out to encompass a lot of other movements. Was that an accurate assessment? You guys, do you think, does that sound right?
Agreed. Yeah, I think so.
All right, so here is Sargon of Akkad. You know what? Let's just pull up his right here.
Lose the vote.
You know, it's a whole video. I don't know if I want. You know, can you hear this if I play this?
Discourse around the subject of the way that right-wing.
Let's just watch this for a second, then I'll see your response to it.
Women are treated online by right-wing activists. And this has, from what I've seen, happened mostly on Twitter, which is rarely the best place to have any kind of productive conversation. What's worse is that the conversation...
Listening to a British person on Fast Forward is unreal.
You should definitely enlarge the video.
You know what? This is a good point. I'm what you call an asshole. I'm not very good at this.
About the right-wing conception of the romantic relationships between men and women is not mature, and is being undertaken by people who probably don't actually have all that much experience of them personally, and so have to go from the examples of others.
Now, I'm going to say there's a lot of hate coming towards wife guys.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of good questions in the discourse around wife guys, surrounding wife guys. You know, a popular one that I've prompted many people with is Adolf Hitler, before he died, married, Ava Longoria, whatever her name was. And then for a very brief amount of time. So was Hitler alive long enough to be a wife guy? Now, a lot of people they come to you like, what the fuck? Who the fuck are you? What the fuck are you talking about? They don't answer the question. They have to answer around it. Because my theory is that it accumulates prior to the marriage. So if you meet a girl and marry her a year later, you're not a wife guy. Not for a few years. And however, you know a woman for a few years before, and then you get married. That is grandfathered in. So was Adolf Hitler, Chancellor Adolf Hitler, a wife guy? I think the case is clear. What do you think, Judas?
Yeah, I think he had the personality of a white guy from the get-go. He was just, he was busy. You know,
okay, by the way, I'm saying wife guy. It sounds like you're saying white guy.
No, sorry, I may have misspoke. I meant to say wife guy. I think there's a Freudian there. I said white guy.
Oh, Freud. That's not. You want any Freudian thoughts in there, Jude? You don't want any. Oh, was that your wife laughing in the background or coughing?
It's my wife clearing her throat in embarrassment.
I was hoping for a laugh. I need a win on this episode so far. Okay.
I think that actually I do have some authority on this subject. And I have to say, I would never talk to my wife in the way that I see right-wing men online speak to the women that they view to be on their own team. And I think that you do build your character by your habits.
So I don't want to do like a start and stop too much here, because this is 10 minutes and we can make a meal out of this. But just my immediate response, and I kind of mentioned this in a post to him, it's like, yeah, you wouldn't talk to your wife the same way you'd speak to a random woman, would you? That's buffoonish.
No.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Like they always say that. They always say, first of all, not to get the knives out too early, but what you always hear, that's someone's mother, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's sister. Have you ever heard a woman say, that's someone's father, that's someone's brother? Never in all my days have I heard that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
it's also And I don't know where he's going with it yet, but it's already interesting to me because, like, when we talk about our wives in relation to the scene, we're saying, like, we know that this works because it works with our wives. So he's saying, well, you shouldn't talk to women that way because if I talked to my wife that way, she'd divorce me. It's like, well, now hold on a second, step back. Maybe, maybe your wife's a dumb bitch. I don't know. Maybe you have a gay wife. I'm not. Hey, who knows?
And the comment we had made on a couple previous episodes, and I love this, and I believe it was put forward by a Telegram user K, was he had said the only right wing woman is your wife.
Yeah.
That's the e-girls, e-celebs, whatever. That's a good policy. And then if everyone's married, then everyone's got a right wing wife, which should be the goal. But I like because instead of debating about whether or not they're right wing. All right, let's get back to this. He's still using that head though, isn't he? I think he should really retire the Sargon head. But anyway.
The conversation, which is what I'm going to generously call it, mostly consists of centre-right women who are essentially 90s liberals in their beliefs, being attacked by the more hardline right-wing Twitter anons. Put simply, this quite unpleasant fiasco basically boils down to the question, is there an honourable place for women on the right? To which the answer had better be yes, or else the right is going to die a painful and embarrassing death of irrelevance, as it alienates half of the population and then wonders why it keeps losing elections. Whatever the repeal the 19th crowd wants in their heart of hearts, women are not about to lose the vote anytime soon.
And just as a sidebar, this is part of the discourse that I've been seeing, specifically Lauren Chen, we mentioned in the last episode. She was saying, repeal the 19th Amendment, repeal women's right to vote. In the larger argument that democracy is broken, I don't dislike the take, but it is odd hearing my insane words come out of a woman's mouth. I'm used to them going into a woman's head and then seeing a mean look on their face. But so it's just, I'm getting my lunch eaten and my lunch barfed back in my lap.
And so shrieking about how degenerate modern women are over and over and over is not going to win you any friends. Whether these people like it or not, whatever it is we call democracy is probably going to be here for the foreseeable future. Women...
Boo! Boo this man!
Yeah.
As a voting bloc will matter, and so courting their vote matters. Put simply, if the right doesn't find a way to telegraph its values to women, it is going to continue losing. Moreover, I think that right-wing thought leaders and the Twitter anons who act as foot soldiers for right-wing ideals really need to learn how to regulate their trigger fingers, because I'm seeing a lot of what amounts to friendly fire going on, and I don't think it's decent. The left are actually really good at telegraphing their ideals to young women, which is why they keep winning. They promise...
I don't know if we need to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
I feel like we can go off on that.
The whole thing that all I got from that was it's first of all completely left coded. It's about feelings and decency and fairness. And it's principle free because he's not talking about what principles are correct or what is consistent. He's talking about what is practical and successful, which is like, Boofwell wants to be successful by courting gays instead of white nationalists. And he might be right. There's more money over there, but that's hardly principled, right? And he's making the argument, like, regardless of your principles, you can't possibly win by taking away the female vote. So it's a non-starter. It's like, all right, so what happened to your beliefs? You fucking gay man.
And now, Matt Prime, we're going to get to your take on that in a second, but I wanted to throw it to you to see if you had any thoughts on that you didn't get to cover in your post or any reaction so far.
No. The post is pretty comprehensive on my take here. And whenever you're ready, I'm happy to jump into it.
All right, so let me just read it for people because we'll have listeners to just the audio version. So Sargon gets a lot wrong here. And let me just say this is why I appreciate Meta Prime, because he takes a reaction that I would have had and removes all the threats, removes all the curses, removes all the bones from the meat. And he gives you just a nice filet mignon. So I'm very appreciative that this is the one that seemed to have got Carl's attention rather than mine, which is me kind of making fun of him for, I think Amy Therese, and we can get to her in a second. Amy Therese made this point first and I yanked it, but it was something like, referring to him saying the "I wouldn't even rape you" thing to like a woman, which is like, well, that's how you treat your like enemies. How do you treat your friends? Like you would rape them? This is not the guy. It's like, and of course I hear that. I'm like, well, he's got my vote, but I understand that's what, not to get the electorate. Okay, so Sargon gets a lot wrong here, but most fundamentally, he completely fails to understand and identify the real problem the right has with women in the online discourse. It has little to do with promiscuity of modern women, but the very legitimate concern that if women successfully establish themselves in the discourse, they will use that power to impose a feminine frame on the discussion. Anyone paying attention understands the degree to which toxic femininity has spread throughout all of society, forcing us to put feelings of equality and sensitivity before realism and practicality. This is why we have such dire issues with crime, illegal immigration, the trans agenda, toxic tolerance. Very, very good phrase. I think that's got some legs as well. It is exactly for this reason the right is justifiably concerned about including women in one of the last male dominated spaces left. What I find so pernicious about Sargon's video is that instead of being honest about why the right is really concerned, he accepts the frame that Lauren Southern established earlier this week, claiming that the online right is mean to women because of their promiscuity and unwillingness to defer to men. I know we have to win female voters to the right, but playing nice with the longhouse won't end well. A fantastic summary, and I wonder, Judas, what do you think of that?
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
and after that, if Meta, if you'd like to speak on that a bit more too. Judas, you can start by giving your
Oh, I
reaction.
said, am I here? I said it's beautiful. Read it. Third time reading it. Would read again. Fantastic. I agree.
So Meta, if you would like, this one got some traction on it. We can actually go to his response right now. I totally forgot to cover this. The response to this post.
Yeah, we
From
had a pretty big back and forth, and I think that was what was really cool about the post is I woke up on, I think it was like, what was it? It was like Saturday morning or something like that, and I had slept in. I think I went out the night before or something, and I'm like, oh, I have a lot more notifications than normal, and I saw his reply, and I was like, oh, okay, this is why, right? And to your point, like he had kind of picked this one as the one to respond to, which I was super excited about. I do try to um, put my posts out there in a way where I'm not doing ad hominem attacks, right? I am focused on you know actually having an intellectual conversation about these things, and so he did bite. But the funny thing is, his reply, and I'll let you read it here, is it's like and like it even gets worse as he goes, because we had a few back and forths, but he's just very sour and mean. He's not really talking about the issue, and I think that's why he got ratioed so hard in this thread.
Yeah, and what I like to do when I see these, when people are speaking in broad terms, is try and discern who it is they're actually talking about. So he'll talk about the right. Is it the entirety of the right? Well, of course not. It sounds like he might be referring to groypers, but the peak of groypers was maybe a few years ago. Like, I'm not even sure that the groypers are that, you know, right now. Like, there is that on the right, but I think that was like this is kind of late. This is late to the discourse. If anything, it's been on the downtrend since the peak. Like, and even Andrew Tate seems to be dwindling, and he's really become like a parody of himself.
Yeah.
Whereas
Well, what really kicked this off was the Lauren Southern tweets recently about how all of her friends are moving left, and how, oh, the right's being mean to women because they're adopting like third world backwards Islamic ideology and stuff like that. So I think that's why it kind of got jettisoned into the zeitgeist more recently.
Yeah, and that's something we covered pretty comprehensively on the last of the 2 episodes ago, or 1 episode ago, was that she, and I don't want to just keep beating this horse, but it needs to be said that I really do think Lauren Southern is the rotten tumor of this entire non-discourse, non-event. Because if you've been tracking this for as long as we have, like psychopaths, you realize that she's been beating the drum that all of my right-wing friends are getting divorces, and all of my right-wing friends are going to the left, and Alex Kashuda jumped in on that, and a lot of women jumped in that. First of all, I don't accept that that's true. And second of all, it seems that this thing of ours, as my friend Thomas777 would say, is more popular than ever with women. Call that organically, call it for whatever reason. It seems to have more cultural cachet. There has been a vibe shift. The discourses that we engage with are more acceptable. So it sounds odd that now more than ever before is this pushback from women saying, like, I think it's time for us to leave. Why? Because there's more women than ever before? Or is that why you feel in a position that you can start making demands, which is kind of close to what I think it is. But yeah, like I reject their analysis, and I don't actually think that we're that mean to women over here. Like once you actually get these guys talking, because on the right, broadly, you got guys who are more, and a lot of leftists and arrogants are going to be laughing when I say this, but it's fucking true. Because the only reason you guys start gun clubs is because we did it first. The only reason you started lifting was because you got to keep up with those psychos over there. We're the people who actually have families, and we're even if we're traditional, we tend to be. We just because we have boundaries doesn't mean that we're mean to women for no fucking reason. Who's mean to women is trannies. They're real mean to women. We don't have a lot of them over here. We have a couple though. We don't get into that. But we tend not to like having the people around who are actually the ones raping and killing you. So I think that doesn't get brought up a lot. And we're also the ones with the guns who can defend you. Let's get into Carl Benjamin's. And we also do fucking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We do DMT, which means we can get into mind wars. How many leftists can get into a fucking mind war? I bet not a couple. All right. So Carl Benjamin, in response, says, it's very difficult to think that the online right is not mean to women. Also mean, like you mentioned this, the word mean is very feminine.
It's all
like,
about feelings.
What do you mean mean? No man says this. Yes, you're a married man. You've got, I don't know, 4 kids, whatever it is. But like you shouldn't be using that word if you're serious. This isn't Lotus Eater's vocabulary. All right. It's staggering the way you theory cells. Oh my God, theory cells. I'm reading this for the first time, by the way. I didn't read his responses. I'm living. If you don't mind, I am seething right now. It's staggering the way you theory cells have decided it's acceptable to talk to / about them. I was under the impression women were to be wives and mothers, which entitles them to a measure of respect. Yeah, once you're a wife or a mother. Until then, it's fair game. I'm making fun of your nails. I'm shitting on your lashes. You come in a short skirt. I'm saying you look like a dump of shit. You are, and here's Meta Prime, taking what I just said and dusting the cobwebs off, go getting all the spiders off it. Here's what he says. You're equating mean with won't take shit. The online right knows what happens when you let women browbeat you into being more tolerant. Crime, illegal immigration, and the trans agenda. These problems can be solved by ignoring the cries of women for tolerance and just doing what is practical and realistic. I can still have a love and appreciation for women while understanding their sentiments of toxic tolerance are not suited for the modern discourse. And this is what I like that you did. And we discussed this before, that he's just to summarize my position on the last episode. I said, we welcome women in the space. We welcome women to traffic in our ideas. However, if there is a conversation to be had about the role of women on the political right broadly, the conversation needs to begin that you are fleeing a female-dominated space, which is the left, which is the Democrats, the liberals, whatever you want to do. That is a female-dominated space in every aspect. That's where feminism has gotten everything it ever wanted. So if you are here, I think the onus is on you to admit the failures of the female leadership that chased you up. And this is what Alex Kashuda had said, which I vehemently disagree with, and Lauren Southern, by saying we feel as women it's safer on the left. It's safer with the shit libs. And I say, well, I don't know. They're the ones trying to mutilate your children and, just every bad thing you could think of to surrounding women, pumping you full of SSRIs, everything that is more acceptable or pushed on that side. So that tells me you have a very poor sense of self-preservation, or you're lying, or this is some kind of subterfuge you're engaging in. But it doesn't make sense. The left would be safer for you, and this is the side that is pushing tolerance of crime, illegal immigration, the trans agenda. Like these 3 fucking things are decimating the daily lives of women. And if that is not related, if that is not established as the result of a female-dominated space, then there's no conversation to be had. If you can't admit that, then I don't fucking want to hear anything from you over here. I'm not saying you can't speak ever, but like admit that, you know what, when women are in charge, they seem to let a lot of crying brown rapists in. So we tried it out. We gave it a shot, and that happened. So I'm doing this for you. I want fewer rapists. And that you wouldn't think that'd be a hard sell. Sorry, I've been rambling for a second. What do people think about that?
No, I mean, I was just going to say Patchwork has a good comment. He says women who understand right-wing ideas are actually busy being wives and mothers, right? And I think that's kind of the catch-22. There's a few of catch-22s around the whole women thing. But before I get into that, all right, real quick, I'll just say, I think the main way that Sargon goes wrong, and I want to emphasize this as we're kind of having this discussion, it's all about framing, right? It's the same thing with Lauren Southern, how she frames the vitriol of men, and she blames it as coming from these backwards, third world ideologies. And then, and she points to Tate, right? And it's like, Tate's not our guy. Tate's, anyone with a brain understands that Tate's kind of like a degenerate idiot. And like, yeah, he's kind of co-opting a lot of these red pill ideas. And I understand he's appealing to, the modern guy, but no one's holding Tate up as like this paragon of virtue that men should, model themselves after.
Yeah.
Right. And so for Lauren Southern to point to Tate and be like, he's the source of all the stuff. Like, sure, there's some degree of like the incels and, those guys, but I think generally the saner heads on the broader, right and the dissident right, we understand that we need to get along with women, right? And so, the point that I'm making here is stop pretending that this is about who's nice and stuff like that. This is really about understanding if we let women into the space and we give them too much control, they're just going to longhouse everything, right? They're just going to assert this frame of like, we're all equal and everything's fine and dandy and fluffy. And that's not the case, right? We need to be able to address these things practically. And my frustration with Sargon was he completely accepted that frame from Lauren Southern. He said, oh yes, yeah, men on the right are super mean. And he just completely buried the fact that there's a legitimate concern around women pundits in the space that they're going to come in and they're going to browbeat people and they're going to, and we've seen this 100 times. And Lauren Southern's like the perfect example of this, her going off and saying, you guys need to be nicer, right? It's to me, it's super frustrating, especially her initial tweet was, all these women are moving to the left. It's like, okay, well, if you're moving to the left, did you really have like a true belief in right-wing values to begin with? No. Because if the thing that gets you to move is people are being mean to you, well, guess what? Like a lot of people were very mean to me when I started to figure out, how I, now understand reality. And that didn't stop me from putting the truth above, people being nice. And so I think that's the big concern that we have in our space is if we're going to do what's good and what's practical, we can't be nice and fluffy. And women who are imposing that frame, they jeopardize our ability to do that. So we're totally fine with women. We love women. We understand the necessity of women, but we also need to make sure that we're not allowing the space to become longhoused.
Yes. And let me just say this. It's a tragedy, a modern tragedy, that this all began with Sargon of Akkad believing Lauren Southern. As many listeners of the show will know, this is an official disbelieving woman show. If I catch anyone believing a woman, you can get the fuck out. Do not trust, do not believe. Sure as shit don't validate.
As a perfect example of female subterfuge, my wife just entered the chat and said, women in this space get real.
I'm had it up to here with her subterfuge, by the way.
Don't believe him. Don't listen to women.
She's been mincing around telling tall tales about me. Telling fucking tall and short tales. I don't care for her saying like she's not a woman. Every time I say, oh, that's Juice's wife, like, me, no. Enough. She's on thin ice with me. There's an interesting point to me there about Lauren Southern. Her entering this conversation saying, her story is related to men being mean to her. Just to remind people, she did not leave the scene because people were mean to her. That had nothing to do with why she left. She left to marry an Australian federal agent and have a kid, and then got divorced, and then she started making content again. And the more she explained about her backstory there, the more everything seemed to just be a weird intrapersonal dynamic thing. And now she's making it everyone else's problem. So Lauren Southern, people will say, how is it possible that this can be boiled down to something so simple? Yes, what I think it is Lauren Southern and her fucking coupling of busted hoes who have all been broken up with or divorced, and they do what every divorced woman does: is they start whispering in the ears of all their married friends, trying to get them divorced. My wife deals with this. She works at Girl Boss Central, and all of these women are pieces of trash. And they try and turn her against me when their relationships are fucked up. If they're mad at their husband, they'll try and make other women mad at their husband. It's a weird fucking thing that women do. And I think any women listening will know exactly what I'm talking about. But I think that's what Lauren Southern and a couple others are doing, which is like they couldn't find love in the space. So now the space is damned. And that is spreading through the fucking female hive mind. And I really just want to nail that with this is all just a scheme in a sense, because if you break it down for 5 seconds, it doesn't actually make any fucking sense. Oh, sorry, we got a couple comments here. We had a couple good ones I wanted to do. Women Let the Rapists Win by Machi Peachy. I had one here. Oh, we got Trouble Armstrong. Lauren Southern is a smoke show.
Oh,
Well,
man.
What are your thoughts on that, Judas?
Secondhand smoke show, maybe.
Second smoke show. You love to hear it. We got Ramen Respecting Zone. You heard wrong. Ramen has too many glutamates. We got a whole lot of ramen stuff in the chat right here.
The fuck?
I just want to say you're trouble. You'd bang a dehydrated salami is what they're telling Trouble over here. I mean, why not? And we got Patrick here. No shame. I remember thinking she was hot when I was like 16. Let me just say for the record, the entire criticism we had about Lauren Southern never once mentioned her looks or her age. I mentioned her blush. I mentioned
a little bit,
but I mentioned her fucked up eyelashes. I mentioned her underarm fat. But
we talked at length about her appearance, yeah. But I mean, it's neither here nor there.
This is what I recommend guys do. Getting married. There's a lot of reasons to get married, a lot of good reasons, but one of my top reasons is you get access to another, like real intimate access to another female mind. And there's no one who can bully a woman like another woman. So I had no idea that like little underarm fat was of such critical importance.
Rhodium put us onto that. That was a great bit.
Rhodium Maiden are a good, unironic woman in our chat. She goes on about this all day. She's like an astrology type. She can tell you your entire life story by looking at your underarm fat. Women have powers of bullying that blow my mind every day, and I wish I could harness that. I guess I can now, but that's one of the reasons to get married is to ignore other women, but also harm them. Anyway, moving on.
Hey, before we get too far from it, the bit about the only really right-wing women are the ones that are actually mothers and wives. That we keep kind of circling, not we, like the discussion, the discourse is circling this idea that one of the things that we're mad at women is we're always telling women to shut up. And I see Sargon doing this right now. He's like, why are you guys, all of you, always telling all women to shut up? And it's like, no, he's not understanding the nuance that one of the principles that we have is women should not be in leadership roles. Women should not be in media. Women should not be politicians or pundits or thought leaders or philosophers. They shouldn't. They're not good at it. They poison the narrative when they do. They're not prepared or built for that. So when we see women talking in media, we say, shut up. Get down from there. It's dangerous for you and for me. Stop it.
She's standing on a railing at night.
Right. So like, it's not like I'm not telling my wife or my daughters or my mom to shut up. I'm not telling the clerk at the grocery store to shut up. I'm very friendly. I'm telling a woman who has spent her time and money getting on a public platform to tell men how to live. I'm telling her very strongly to shut the fuck up. And this is not an anti-woman thing. This is like the equivalent would be women rightfully telling men who dress up in dresses and try to chase little children to fucking cut it out. That's the thing that women do. Men
You'd
do
also
that.
be
It's
like,
disgusting and embarrassing and terrifying. Stop it. That's how I feel about women in politics and women in media. So
you'd also be like, it would be like if a woman told Andrew Tate to shut the fuck up, and I said, "Would you say that to your dad?" What the fuck are you talking about, you psycho? You madman. Like, it's such a dumb point. It makes me retroactively dislike anything you said. Because all I hear all day is Sargon is based. And I think it's accidental
Yeah.
baseness. And I'm not trying to, this
Mm.
is not
Even-
Meta Prime endorsing what I'm saying. I'm just running my mouth. But I will say that every once in a blue moon, Sargon says something like, mass migration is bad. And we go, yes, he's back. We're back. Europe's back. Fucking the white man's back, baby. But then he'll just say some shit like this, like, should we be nicer to women? No, you shouldn't be nicer to anyone ever. Where did that get us?
Sure.
He is Mr. Classical Liberal, though. Isn't that the whole Lotus Eaters thing? I don't really watch them, but I thought that was the idea is they believe in the original liberalism of like men and women are equal. Women should be educated as long as they're right wingers or something to that effect.
Mm.
Yeah, that's pretty much, I don't follow the Lotus Eaters I will say of the Lotus Eaters, he's the only guy I like. Like whenever I've tuned in, there's him and two schlubs to like, who the fuck are these? And then they're doing sort of news commentary stuff. Let's say a clip. It's like, well, that was a clip. Wasn't that a clip? That was indeed a clip. And you know what? It's just the left is at it again. It makes you like, I guess Paul Joseph Watson was a fucking genius with his content, because I would like my kingdom for Imagine My Shock compared to this fucking dreck. Anywho.
Well, this is a big
fights.
thing, right? And this is, I wrote a thread not so long ago. It was maybe, I want to say like 4 months, maybe 5 months ago. It's called The Inflection Point. If anyone's listening to this and you're kind of running into my content for the first time, I'm one of those weird X accounts that actually uses the highlight tab to highlight actually interesting threads and tweets and stuff that I've put together. So you can go to my page and you can go through my highlights. And the Inflection Point thread is one of those. And it basically talks about how the ideas on the dissident right are getting more popular, more mainstream. And this is a good and a bad thing, right? There's this really great like meme that came out a long ago, and I guess it's kind of like about Magic the Gathering, any of those card games where like a bunch of nerds start something and they're really passionate about it and it's cool and it's fun, and then like other nerds get into it because they appreciate it for what it is, and then you start to get people who get into it because like it's a cool thing to do, right? And people want to hang out, and then girls start to be attracted to it because like the cool guys are there, right? And then the griftery guys who want the girls who are attracted to the scene now start showing up, and so you have this kind of, that's the inflection thread. And if you scroll down, you'll see the meme that I'm talking about. And so, I kind of talk about how, e-girls are showing up in the scene. It's becoming more of a thing. Yes, who doesn't like the cat girl aesthetic? I told you, I love our women. But
we talk about it all the time. Like, go into any chat right now, you're going to hear them talking about women, or at least parts of them. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. And so that's the meme right there, the degeneration of fan base hobby. And so then basically it gets to the point where it was cool, it was fun, but now it's just overrun with grifters and and people who are in there for the wrong reasons, and then so people leave and they do their own thing. And my big thing is, I do think that we need to gatekeep the dissident right online, right? I know I listen to your guys' show all the time. The best show out there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You guys are great. And like one of the points that you make all the time, right, is the importance or how you're like not on Twitter, right? And Dimes is like, oh shit, like I guess I have to be on Twitter to like, kind of. And I think it kind of needs to be done. You don't have to be terminally online. You don't have to kind of post all the meme content, but being able to establish a presence and, kind of push back against the dumb takes from like, in the, this kind of like right wing, the right wing grifter sphere. I think it needs to be done because otherwise, there guys like Sargon and Lauren Southern are just going to keep injecting, oh, we need to be nice, we need to bring women in and stuff like that, and it's just going to go up in flames. I thought Judas made an amazing point earlier. He's talking about how women tend to like, if they're soured, right? If they've had bad life experiences and and another girl comes to them and says, oh, I had like a fight with my boyfriend or my husband, their like immediate default reaction is to be like, oh, you should break up with him. Like, yeah, he's no good for you. Like, you go out on your own. Like, this is, I think, one of the main problems that we have in society around women is the female zeitgeist broadly has been so poisoned against men. And they went that kind of promiscuous girl boss route, and now they're kind of like old, and they've made all these mistakes, and now they're kind of enforcing that on the younger generation. I don't know if you saw like the RFH drama today on the timeline between her and Kafefe.
Ooh, wait, I think I've got. Hold on.
Yeah. So anyway,
RFH, I got this. I got a Kafefe non-tweet here. I wanted to show in a little.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we can talk about the bear question as well. I mean, there's a lot of good discourse around the women's stuff, but the thing that I'm getting at is, in order to actually kind of rehabilitate women towards like the positive ideals, that it's not only just like what's going to be good for men as far as what we want in a good relationship, but women are happier when they have like a good family, a supportive community. Like, I don't think any guy on the right wants to just like you'd shove women in the kitchen and not care about what they think, right? Like, it's about trying to find harmony between the genders. And yeah, the toxicity that exists in these female circles. I was at like at the local corner store the other night, and there was this group of women, and they're all complaining to each other about how the idea that a woman's highest calling is to have children, and they're like, oh, this is horrible, like, why would anyone want to be a mom? Like, that's so degrading. And they're like, oh, you're so right, queen. It's just like the degree to which women reinforce these bad values, because that's what they are. They're just they're part of the vibe, right? They just recite the herd. And so that's going to be a very powerful force once we start to have more success and kind of build power, and more women. It's like one of those things where a lot of the Anon guys on the right, they're like handsome Chadley dudes. I know like Dimes is secretly a Olympic power lifter. I don't know if you guys know this, but it's like we'll get the girls eventually, but we have this kind of catch-22 problem of like, we can't be nice to them. We're never going to out nice the left. Like, the left is always going to be like, oh, just put them on a pedestal and tell them that they're amazing and all this kind of stuff. So we're never going to out nice the left. There's no reason to do that. We do need to win the women vote, but we do that we need to have power. And so, we're kind of in this weird catch-22 where if we want to go the democracy route, which, obviously it's kind of a, who knows if that's actually a viable path. That it looks less and less the case every day, but, we're not necessarily going to do that through, voting. So we're in kind of this weird spot where, like, we're not going to out, a simple left, and we should just focus on building what's good and real. And that means, keeping the long space. I know I went on for a long there, but
no, it's fine. But I just want to add on to that my contention has always been, and we say this a lot in the show, is that the women will come. Like, they're here. They are here. Like, this is what it feels like when that happens. And there's just some weird shit happening. But the people talk about the vibe shift. The vibe has shifted. There is more interest in the space. That presents new problems, but we can deal with those problems. But like, the women will come. You actually don't really need to court them. They're seeing the failure of these policies over here, so they come over here. So you can just kind of let it happen. And there are filters in place. So what they're complaining about really is a filter to keep out the people we don't want driving the discourse. They're saying, why aren't I allowed in this room? I'm like, well, you haven't proven that you're really bringing anything substantive to the table yet. You can hang out in this room, and that's fine. And you can party, and you can get away from the freaks that from the last place you were. But I don't think you have what it takes to exist in here. And that's why we're quote unquote mean, because then if you become a famous content creator, you'll do what most of these women do, which is just complain about mean comments. You don't need to. All I have are negative comments.
I want to seize just for a moment. I want to seize on the women will come. I want to seize on that, and then I want to roll over and light a cigarette. And
Oh,
then,
jeez.
but anyway, no. But what I was actually gonna say, is, the fuck. Now I've lost my train of thought. No, really. So the idea you were talking about, regardless of how in a woods we want to go, we have to convince women. And I like that we're starting to kind of split the difference between, are we convincing women for the women, or are we convincing women for the democratic system? Are we trying to get votes? Are we trying to get clicks? Or are we trying to get women? You know what I mean? Like, are we trying to induct
Yeah.
women into the sphere? Are we trying to get wives, girlfriends, employees maybe? Are we trying to get people to join a community, join an organization? Are we trying to get members of a church? That, I think, is a front that's much easier to win, because we have the upper hand. Like in democracy, it is all about who can be the nicest, who can promise the moon, and you're always playing to the lowest common denominator, which is it's a lot of women already, right? But when you're trying to induct women into a real thing, we have the goods, right? We have the safety, we have the masculinity, we have all of the things that women want that they don't even know they want. So I think we should be focusing on how we can work with that, whether it's in narrative or whether it's in the way that we run organizations or the way that we interact with the world. Like actually getting women, physically getting women, you know what I mean? Like forming relationships and convincing them, never mind democracy, just getting them on our side.
Like, to me, the real question that many of the real leaders have been asking is like not making your ideas more palatable to women, but how getting young men and women together to get married, and actually think about, okay, how do we address the issue of OnlyFans, of Tinder and stuff? Like, there's a lot of lonely young guys, and I was going to mention this earlier. One interesting phenomena is that the legitimizing of the incel narrative, because they were trying to marginalize the incel narrative for a long time, and it seems to be legitimized in the mainstream discourse by bringing in what we call femcells, which, would also be incels. You could just call them incels, but whatever. It's a girl version of incel. But now they're saying, oh, there's actually women who are mentally ill and lonely too. So this has become a valid thing to talk about. Interesting how that is occurring in the mainstream zeitgeist, while all these women are saying we have an incel problem. We actually, we have a birth rate problem, and we have a gendered problem, and a relationship dynamics problem, and that is producing this thing called the incel problem. But if you try and address those those streams that gather together, you can actually solve it. I think we're, more than any other side, the left, the libs, they're just still on Tinder. Over here, we're saying, fuck, can we get like a church dance going? There's that guy, Meta, you know him. What's his name? Thad. He's big into, like, was it swing dancing, line?
Yeah. So Thad is a big proponent of what he calls a dance hall nationalism, and so his idea is that we need to get more guys out there country swing dancing, as it's a great place to meet women, the women who are going to do it. It's a very like traditional kind of thing. You have to be generally physically fit. It's a very white coded thing. So so he's a big fan of that, and he is a very Chadley dude. If you're not on X, you should go check him out.
I'm trying to get. How do we say that? Is it? What's his ad? Is it at that? I know we follow each other, but
it's Gigathad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've actually, as in thinking about that, I haven't been since I was a teenager, but I've been to events like that with my family, and the idea of, I was like uncomfortable with it because I had no experience with this, but being a teenage boy and being thrust out into a group of people of varying ages, but they're strangers to you. And like, even your parents are pushing, like, go grab the girl, go dance, go talk to this person. And like, by the end of the night, you're drinking and like, all of these fucking people. In my case, they were all white people just because of the place that we were. But yeah, like in that case, it was like an R&B jazz music event, but there was that kind of a thing, like an actual dance floor where everybody was socially pressured to go and find a dance partner. Like it sounds so corny, but seriously, it really is. Like, if we had third spaces like that, it would be a game changer.
Yeah, I'm just showing a video right now. He posts these all the time. He's like, hey guys, get out and fucking get good at dancing. And I'm not a dancer. I've never have been, but for a lot of guys, like, why not? Why not actually do a practical thing? So here's a side that is coming up with practical solutions for practical problems. And I appreciate that. And this is just one of many to actually solve the incel problem by, like,
if you have the discipline to lift, you can learn to dance. Like it's not even that hard.
Yeah.
Look
So
at
when
he's
Thad
crawling up
first,
my ass to go, if you know how to lift, you know how to dance. I'm taking a lot of strays during the stream, and I don't like it. Sorry, I cut you off there, Meta.
No, it's all good. I was just gonna say, Thad, when I first met him, so I went out and visited him where he's at, because I'm a big believer in, the next stage of what we're doing here is actually getting to know people, build relationships, so we can build stuff in the real world. And so, I've hung out with that and had a few drinks with him. And one of the times that we hung out, he actually met the girl he's with. He had never done country swing dancing before. She's an instructor. And so it was within the last year that
That's like sleeping with the madam of the whorehouse. Bad comparison, but go ahead.
Well, no, he's this, he's gotten into it. He's gotten really good at it, and I think, it's kind of a huge flex because, there are a lot of guys who are in the classes that she puts on who are clearly there in part because she's a very attractive lady. And, they're pretty good at country swing dancing, and he's gotten really good and kind of like, established his dominance in the hierarchy, even though at the very beginning he wasn't good at it. So, it's impressive to watch what he's done. He's a great guy. He does a lot of things in our space. So if you haven't already, definitely follow him.
And there's more individuals like that over here. I'm sorry, you mentioned before Coffee Fianon and RFH, Radfem Hitler. I got it pulled up here now. Ooh, I love it. I love seeing a fight. I love seeing this bitch get yelled at. I love to see it because I know something about you. I know your whole backstory. I know you lost custody of your kid because you're a fucking cunt and you're out of your goddamn mind.
Now, Dimes. This is a stream.
Ooh, I'm sorry. She actually.
It's okay. He sang it, so he can't be held liable. It's
Sorry, I subscribe to singing
Special loophole.
frets nationalism. It turns out if you attach nationalism, you append that, you can do whatever the fuck you want. But Coffee Fianon, once again, putting the bow on it, saying it in a way that I wouldn't, full of actionable threats. He says, this is a horrible, hate-filled woman who has had a bad life due to her own bad choices, like driving a good car into a house, who constantly does her best to make everyone who's stupid enough to listen to her as miserable as she is. It's a bit. She posts things like this 80 times per day. That's not a bit. Anyone posting 80 times a day is mentally unwell. And I don't usually say that because we are a madman friendly podcast, but really
Telegram doesn't count. You can
but like you're saying with Andrew Tate, most of the criticism I see directed towards Andrew Tate comes from guys like us. A lot of women kind of write him up, but the ones in his comments really dunking on him are guys like us. So it seems that we're pretty good at policing fucking con artists like that. And just like Radfem Hitler, he's the type of guy who just shit posts now. Like I saw a post from his like just today where he's saying like chefs are women. Chefs, I'm trying to do his fucking weird accent. Chefs are women, and you shouldn't. If you were to, and he pronounces T's like this. If you were to be a chef, that would be like being a woman who's getting fucked. Like just like a nonsense post. He's just posting nonsense. Like I can't even emotionally get invested in this because you're just straight grifter now. You went from atheist to Christian to Islam. You are nothing. You are a construct. Our society, like de Maistre says, sovereignty is a space that you inhabit, and men are called forth to inhabit that space through civilizational forces. Similarly, there's
Did you just go from dunking on Tate to quoting de Maistre?
Yes, I love de Maistre, and it's relevant. It's always and it's a space that must be occupied. There's always a space occupied by an Andrew Tate, some weird fucking no chin cartoon character. But it's like, we're actually pretty good at policing those people out. It used to be Hulk Hogan. We don't really have Hulk Hogan much anymore. He's old and he's just a liar now. So we have to have some kind of fucking guys like, you have to, being a man is telling a woman to shut up. No one takes him seriously, and it's us going after him. So I don't think we get any credit for that. who's in his comments making fun of him having no chin and wearing sunglasses all the time because, as Mike Redbar said, he has kind eyes. Guess what? You can't be a pimp with kind eyes, faggot. All right, so let's see what Coffee Fianon says. We're all over the place here, but I'm having a whale of a time.
Oh yeah, this is great. I mean, like the whole thing with RFH is she's, to your point, she's been this sour, horrible, like unhappy woman on the timeline for a long time. She has these, like, that's the downside of Twitter sometimes, is the takes that can go off, right? If you hit them with something that's like spicy or controversial or makes people mad, then it can get you notoriety, right? And this is the thing is, everyone who's smart enough to kind of knows the people who built their accounts off insight and good beliefs and earnestness, and then those who built their accounts off just the grift. And RFH is like the perfect avatar for like the evil, heartless woman grift. I heard you guys either did or are planning something with around the Ayala stuff too, like another like demonically possessed woman who is just an embodiment of the grift.
Yeah, I just recorded it today. It's for our paywall show. Ayala did a Substack about how she got gang banged on her birthday, and this is a woman who's just a sex worker content creator. And I just kind of read through it. Everyone was up in arms about this when it dropped. And I try not to be just mean spirited, but it is, if you read between the lines, there's a lot of amusing things going on in that piece about like her mental state and how she's like, it was cool, except I was screaming on the inside. It's like, I don't know. I mean, you said it, not me. But yeah, I just got a couple of comments here that I wanted to read. We got Lance Bigham's old friend of the show. So, oh yeah, definitely learn to dance, guys. You'll improve your body and coordination, and also just a lot of fun. We got
Dance
Machi
Bigums. Dance Bigums.
Dance
Sorry.
Bigums. We got Machu Picchu says dance was great until every Indian man in Canada decided it was a good way to meet women.
True.
That may be the case. I haven't gone. I don't go and do things much anymore. But I mean, if Machu Picchu give us the 411 on what's going on in the dance halls in Canada, if it's anything like the fucking employment line to the LCBO, it's going to be just a sardine can of guys hanging around. Oh, yeah, sorry. Here's just one from Lance Bigums. The last round of dance lessons I did in the big city was 100% white, all older couples except my wife and me. So all older couples. That's another angle. And one thing I wanted to mention, just to append this on the last thing we were saying about our side seems to be the side that is having the larger families. I think Radical Liberation, another very good and interesting content creator. I think he did something on this before, but we've mentioned it in passing. I don't have the data in front of me, but it was like, the birth rate is overall going down, but if you kind of expand out the demographics, there's a couple that are actually having more kids, and these are sort of like high performing wealthy people are having kids, and also like people on our side ideologically, like broke but like religiously driven or ideologically driven.
Yeah,
They're the ones
yeah.
having, I know a few
Absolutely.
a few guys in our space who got 5, 6, 7 kids. I think Black Horse, a friend of the show, and who goes on Radical Liberation quite a bit. He had just ushered in his 5th kid. But anyway, you see that a lot.
There's a multiplying factor there too. Like if you look at it in 2 generations, on the left side, you might have 100 couples, and between these 100 couples, they have 50 kids. And on the right side, 100 couples, you might end up with 500 kids. And those 500 kids between them will have 2,500 kids by the 3rd generation. So you're looking, and well, the 50 on the other side will have 25. So you've gone to a factor of 100 in like 35 years. So like we really do. If you look at the Mennonites or the Amish who ever went to South America, they like took an area of the jungle in like the 70s, and now there's like 80,000 of them. Like the demographics is not something to ignore. If we really are having even 2 or 3 more kids on average than them, we can beat them on demographics. It's possible.
And let me just, because I have this pulled up in front of us right now, I'm going to read the rest of these Coffee Fianon tweets, if you don't mind. It says he's responding to someone named Platonic Chain. He says, to be frank, this is true, and I speak as a male teacher of mostly males. Approximately 50% of my freshmen who haven't gotten out of my STEM pathway will have no greater function in life except to suck welfare, do crimes, or die for Israel. Now, Coffee Fianon says, this isn't true. All of civilization was built by men. And if our society has decided that women are equal, which failed and caused it to double down with then we'll knock boys until we make women equal, then the problem is our society. So what are your thoughts on, we got Jefferson Lee in here too. Mentioning her shtick used to be less toxic, but she has known descended into full-on manic hatred, not an act. Is someone radicalizing themselves in real time? No, Meta, what are your thoughts on Coffee Fee's tweets here, since you mentioned them?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is what needs to be done. Is we need guys like Coffee V, who, if you're not familiar with him, he's like an old school OG Anon, right? He's been around for a long time. He's similar to guys like Lomez, or any of those kind of old hat guys, or like BAP, or those kind of early Anons. And so he's got a lot. Those guys, like, it's important to understand, like, they're still around because they're good at keeping other people's secrets, right? They're focused on what like actually needs to be done, right? Like, people like that wouldn't exist as prominently and as well respected as they are unless they had really kind of demonstrated that. And so my whole thing with this is, I'm relatively new to the scene. I've been here for like 2 years. I've gotten to know a lot of people, and I feel like I've built a pretty good reputation in that time. But guys like Kafefe need to be the leaders who are calling out the bullshit, that are pointing out, because we're heading into this election season, like the unity of, especially of like the dissident Anon right, is going to be tested in a big way. And we need guys like him to kind of step up and call this out. And RFH, like, she can't be associated with their space. I mean, I have similar thoughts about other people, but I don't want to get like sidetracked by that. But we need to make sure, like, it's funny that like HR function of gatekeeping is actually kind of the most important thing that we need. Is we need really good gatekeeping in the dissident right, on the online right, because it's just, these people can. Basil talks a lot about this, and I know he's kind of like a divisive figure. Some people like him, some people don't. But his point is, like, if you bring in these take sellers, right, especially the ones who are going to try to leverage their minority status, be like, I'm a woman on the right, and so therefore X, or I'm a gay person on the right, and so therefore I can say stuff about gays that normal people can't, or whatever it is, right? The problem with bringing them in when they're saying all the stuff that you like is kind of similar with Sargon or Lauren Southern, right? As soon as they, get unhappy or whatever, they're not there for the right reasons. They'll flip the script. They'll do whatever they need to do to stay in power. And those aren't the people we want around.
Quickly before I forget, I just want to call attention quickly to our Odyssey chat here. We received a $10 tip from Milk Trucker. Please buy more cheese with this. Thank you. Will do, sir. We just have a good meme here of Jesus Christ as Ricky from Trailer Park Boys going, smokes, let's go. I like that. I like to see more of it. And also, just your point about Coffee Fee Anon, it is good that he's helping lead the discourse. I have a tendency to enter into discourse like The Mask. So I'm going to pull that out. What you're looking at here is Jim Carrey's The Mask. This is the vibe I bring to the function oftentimes. So it's good that we have other people doing that, because I'm coming in with a bag full of you don't want to know.
Yeah, but you can't like, everybody can't be everything, right? And that's the thing, is like, this podcast is so good because you guys are glib, you're funny, right? You deliver a lot of really good insights, really like harsh truths in a very like fun and enjoyable way. And you're not meant to be like the like, you can't do every single role. So I really appreciate what you guys do. And I have your tweets on notification. They're like criminally underliked. If anyone's listening to your show but doesn't follow you on X or doesn't have you on notifications, I think that's like a horrible crime. Like, you're missing out on some of like the most underviewed, awesome takes on X. It's really
Yes.
it's really a shame. It's crime against humanity.
And for people who I know there's probably some confusion about this out there. I do like praise. I do like I'm a fan of
No.
good things happening to me and only me, actually. I wanted to call attention to this right here because there's so much. I'm having such a great time. There's so much we can talk about because this whole discourse has spider webbed out since we first talked about this. I'm looking here, and we're going to do a live thing. This has never been done before, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking at a Meta Prime poll. Who talks about their sexual experiences with their friends more? Men, you are and it's whether you're a male or whether you're a female. Men or women? Now, what do we think?
I don't get it.
Judas, okay, if you're in a group of friends,
Right.
all guy friends, how often do you talk about girlfriend, wife, some maybe even, let's say girlfriend or wife? How explicitly do you talk about
Almost never
anything sexual? True, and that
Oh,
is my
but this
experience.
like have genuine conversations about sexual experiences or make rude jokes. Because like we make
Let's say-
sex jokes all the time, but I never actually talk about having sex with my wife. Like that's crazy.
Yes, sexual experiences is what this getting at. Like, are you sharing the lurid
No,
details
like
of?
essentially never.
Yeah, I mean,
and so that's. Sorry, there's a bit of lag there, I think.
No, that was my bad. I was just gonna say, like, this sprang from a conversation we were having in a group chat, and the insight that basically women. Oh man, can I tell the story about the?
Ooh, you gotta.
Oh yeah.
Now.
So one of our good mutual friends who will remain unnamed, but he's a very chatly guy, and yeah, I think you guys will eventually have him on the podcast. Maybe you can get him to cope to this story. But he was dating a nurse, and he goes in to pick her up for a date or something like that, and he's like, "Hey, I'm here to pick up Alicia, or no, not Alicia. That's Sarah.
Good, say Aaliyah.
Aaliyah, okay, yeah. And she's like, oh, and she calls him by some name that it's not his name, and he's really confused by this. And so she goes and she gets the girl, and they go on the date. And later that day, he's like, why did she call me this name? And his nurse girl that he's dating basically tells him, well, that's what I think your dick looks like. And he's like, what? Like, did you describe my dick to them? Like, why do they think this? And she's like, no. We share dick photos like between ourselves, like all the time.
Hey, Aaliyah, chicken dick is here.
And it's just like, that blew my mind. I think there was a few guys and like, so we started talking about this, and we actually have like a very small number of women in the chat. We try to, balance it out. I am trying to like, I do, a little bit of an aside, but I do think that the way that women can be in the space in a healthy way is that high value women sort out high value men to low value men. The low value men will defer to women. They will, agree with them, right? You've seen all of these videos with the bear question of guys saying like, it totally makes sense for girls to pick the bear. It's like,
I want to get to that next.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about that.
But so that sorts it out. And so if you really want to take control of these grifter people entering the space, what you need to do is you need to control the high value women, right? And this is the same with a good marriage, right? The way that you keep your woman in like a good frame is you establish yourself as the leader, right? You put her in a good environment, right? And that's kind of what I'm hoping to provide there, right? Is get some of the like the good women in the space, right? Like provide them this nice, strong, assertive structure so they can feel like grounded in their opinions. But so when we have this conversation, and the conclusion is that women are insanely promiscuous, or they'll talk about these sexual experiences
as well. If you hang out or adjacent to any groups of women, you'll hear the most vulgar and explicit things you've ever heard. If you've ever had to, for whatever reason, like if you've ever been like a cleaner or anything, cleaned a women's public washroom, it is a fucking nightmare of like gossip and just It looks like one of our chats, actually. They talk about women the exact same way we do. I don't know why they're mad at us, but just the vitriol they will scrawl upon the walls about each other. Um, but like women, they talk about their fucking boyfriends or husbands' dick sizes, which is like I've never have you heard a man discuss any part of his wife's or girlfriend's body. You imagine a guy showing up and talking about the depth of his girlfriend's vagina? What have you ever heard that? You probably never heard that. Like, how would that even come up in a conversation? They're over here fucking trading dick pics like Pokemon cards. I thought you bitches didn't like getting dick pics.
It's kind of a red herring because, like, I can imagine a Tate type character saying that, but then I would know it would be a red flag. They're like, "Oh, I don't like you. Like, you're not even the sort of person I want to talk to. If that's this, like, you're gonna talk about that shit, and then what you expect me to talk about my wife? Like, no, I'm not here for it. Bye."
And also got one from Requited here. He says men will say they hit it every now and then, but rarely go into details unless
Yeah.
there's a punchline. Women
Right.
will do a play-by-play with commentary. Like I will tell a sex story if it involves something going wrong,
Yeah,
horribly
like
wrong.
if you're on a cruise and the ship sank, like that would be a good story, right?
Yeah,
Because
if
because of the sex.
like if I'm having sex and the story is that I broke my dick or something, but that's not a sex story. That's a broken dick story,
Right.
and you only get a couple of those in life.
You got to share them. You can't keep that to yourself.
You can't
Yeah.
keep that shit bottled up.
And it definitely is like a thing where I'll talk to women later about, like, if we were in the bedroom and they can give you like the play by play, and in your head you're just like, we had sex, it was good, like that is just the way that the male brain thinks about that. And especially I absolutely agree with Requite. It's like the most guys will say is just like, yeah, we had sex, like it's just so weird to want to talk about like the details.
Yeah.
But evidently women love that stuff.
Well, let
Don't
me just
tell
say
the
this.
women, but we don't remember it half the time. So
I was gonna say we got one from who we got here. James Nope calling me on my bullshit. Says, I don't know about that though. I met plenty of coon-brained dudes who focus on that. Very well could be the case. My wife told me a story about like I don't know if this sounds real enough. She wouldn't just make up this story, but she was working at an office and there were all these guys were kind of huddled around each other because like one guy had gotten a new like porn app, and they're all like watching porn together or just having a look at it, which always, there's one story from when I was growing up. I don't think I've ever told this story on the show, but it was, this stuck with me because I would hear stories from like Shane Gillis or something. He had a story about like him when he was a teenager, him and his friends like whacking off in the same room, right? I've never done that. That's not an experience I ever
except
had.
for this
but-
one story.
Except, the one story was like I was at this because I'm meeting like a couple other guys. They had like this was back before internet porn, so you had like shit recorded on VHS tapes, and he was showing us, and then we're watching porn, and he's like, "All right, now imagine that's your mom," and he goes, "Oh, what the fuck?" He's like, "Yeah, not gonna be any boners in my room," and I'm like, you know what? That was the last of the real ones. That kid, he's like, none of that shit in here. I don't want none of you getting horned up. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I didn't appreciate it at the time. I think that's one of the great stories. All right, I got to vote on this. Let's see who talks about their sexual experiences. The friends were. I'm a male. I want to say women do. What do we got? Bam, 58.2.
I think that
That's
was
democracy.
the crazy
Wow.
thing about this poll is like men and women agree on that. Like it's a very rare thing that you have something like this where it seems very counterintuitive. You think, guys are so, meant to feel like they're terminally horny and, women aren't. And yeah, both men and women understand that, it's women who just like can't keep their mouths shut about the lurid details of their sexual experiences.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get to this before we forget. Now, I don't have the original post here, but I'm looking at one. Maybe we can just summarize it for people, okay? There's been a question that was prompted in a TikTok video I saw. Maybe if someone can link it or whatever, like we can watch it. But the question was, would you rather be alone in a forest with a bear? And I don't think they give the type of bear, but let's just say a bear or a man. and they're interviewing the women, and it seems that not all, but the vast majority of women say that they choose the bear. Let me just look at a couple of comments here. Sorry, just before I go on. We got one here from Cornish Jack. This guys self-sort into Gooner and non-Gooner friend groups at an early age, I think. Fantastic point. I think that maybe that puts the button on the previous discussion we were having. Let's see. Oh, we got James Nope here saying sex is okay and all, but I personally prefer drugs. Fair enough. You're gonna hear no scoffing from me. We got one here from Majestic Cheese 88.
That's Kel. I have it on good authority. That's Kel.
Seeing the frequency of the posts and the attitude, I would agree. Guys on our side give Tate too much leeway and begrudging credit, even from us mulatto naggers. At least he's red pilling kids only because we're popular already makes his breed and celebrity. Did he make a fucking two-parter comment? Of course he did. Okay, here's the second part of his comment because he capped out. All right, off the arbitrage between heart, tangentially related political charge rants, and a constant attack on public decency. Now imagine that. Is there a third one here?
No,
I'm seeing dots. Okay,
it's just ha ha ha. He's laughing at you for reading it.
now imagine this in your fucking DMs. My God. Okay. All right. Hide message. Let's see. Okay, I got some links here. I'm just opening these up. Hold up. If this is what I think it is, okay.
Yeah, so this was a later one. So the first video was some one of those like TikTok guys that goes out in the street and talks to women or people and asks them questions. So, and he's if you're alone in the forest, would you rather be with a bear or with a man? And all the women are answering bear, and so that's why it went viral. It went viral on TikTok and kind of bled into X. But Paul's post here, woman definer, he's a great account too. Good mutual of mine, but he put up this video that came from TikTok where this woman is asking her husband what he would do, and this is definitely worth listening to at least like the first minute. And he answers bear, and then she like starts to laugh at him and think that he's ridiculous, and you could tell that he's like dumbfounded by this. He's like, wait, why does the internet think the bear is safer? And so it's this clash of like the woman online zeitgeist agreeing like irrationality brain clashing with this poor unsuspecting guy who like didn't realize this was going to be like a gotcha TikTok video, and now he has to like you can look at it in his face, like the realization that his wife is just this completely irrational being. It's very entertaining. So,
and let me just say, if you are confronted by a woman, wife, sister, girlfriend who's asking you a question and with a phone in your face, I tell you what, brother, you shoot her in her face.
Wicked sick.
All right, now let's give this a peek, shall we?
Would you rather our daughter be in the woods with a bear or a man?
I would say a man.
Why?
Because I could be that man.
No, not you, a stranger.
Okay, someone I don't know.
Yeah.
Versus a brown bear.
Why does it have to be a brown bear?
I'm just assuming that's what.
That is such a good question that it appears no woman has ever thought of, because any guy, fuck that, not a hunter, any man, a guy with a dick and two balls is like, well, what type of bear? If it's a black bear, like what the fuck are we even talking about? He's gonna he's gonna be a dog because he thinks it got chips or something. If it's a grizzly bear, brown bear, different story. But she's like, it doesn't matter. Bears are big and bad. I'm mad already. I'm sorry. I'm fuming.
Whether black bear, brown bear.
Just a bear. Honey.
I think I'd still say man.
Really? You want our 13-year-old daughter to be?
If I found a 13-year-old in the woods, I would be like, okay, let me try and help you to safety.
Aw, that's really cute.
And a bear would be like, roar, I'm gonna eat you. The odds are better with the man. Like the odds are better with
I
the
don't know
man.
if that's true. I think you're just assuming that all men are like you.
No, we'll just take like 10 people, line up 10 men.
I'm sorry. Like I gotta like break kayfabe here.
Dude, your wife's a bitch.
Your wife is a cunt and making a mockery of you. Like if like what is this? Just one banana hovering in the background.
it is.
What looks to be like a fucking ring light for content producing. This is a shambles of a light.
If I was this guy, I would, for the first and last time, clean that fucking kitchen up, which would include throwing the ring light in a goddamn bin. And I would tell her that she needs to clean it up. Not the kitchen, but like the house, her life. What is this shit? You're right. She thinks she's a fucking TikTok influencer, and she's harassing her poor husband. Holy
Can I just
shit.
say this? I'm trying to, create a through line here. These are the women's telling you how to get more women in the space.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep watching this for a second because getting mad is the only thing that brings me joy anymore.
Well, real quick before you press start again. So I think what's so crazy about this video in my mind is when you first hear someone talk to you about like the bear question, right? If you haven't heard about this, like if you're listening to this Blood Satellite podcast and you're like, I haven't heard of the bear question, I'm not terminally on X or TikTok or whatever, you're like, there's no way this is real, right? There's no way that people are this delusional. And then you watch a video like this and you just like lose all faith in humanity. It's just mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, like just to take it, and I'm gonna watch it for a second before I give the serious talk here.
And then say 6 out of the 10 men are good. Those are better odds than one bear, like leaving my child with a bear. What is the bear gonna? The bear can't feed the child. The bear could eat the child.
These are great points.
Hopefully, read stories, pass the time, and get them to safety. Walk upstream. Bears will just take you to their stream, and you just watch them like eat food and stuff. Or, like I said, the bear would like maul the child.
What if a man mauls the child?
Look, I got a D in stats in college, so I'm just trying to weigh my options here. The bear, it's not like Homeward Bound. Like a bear will kill you.
So I'm just watching because I like this guy. I like how his mind works. Like he was just prompted this question. These are all very sensible on the spot points of, in my opinion, a pretty quick mind. He's like, well, they could lead up. Like he's walking through it logically, which is more thought. Like what she thought was, men rape. Men, that's what men do. So, all men, if you see a man on his own, well, he's definitely a rapist. You know what I mean? Like, fuck,
Yeah.
like if I'm a guy and I see a little girl in the woods, that's, I guess, maybe that's a trap. Maybe if I go and help her, why is she in the woods? Maybe if I'm a guy and see a child in the woods, there's a higher likelihood that another man is using her as bait to bring me to his sex dungeon. This is the male logic at work. This is why don't you never help a kid in the woods. And like, what are they like? Honestly, if you're a guy, guys watching this, if you see a kid in the woods, 99% of the time that's a ghost. That is a grim specter beckoning you to some kind of swamp, some kind of witch's lair. Like again, these would never occur to a woman's mind because they only see there's someone who wants my holes. You know what? Maybe if I'm in the woods, I'm not thinking about sex at all. Maybe I'm thinking there could be bears out here. All right. Here we go. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of Kel shit here. No polar bear ever asked me who hurt me.
That might kill you.
Yes, everything might kill you, but like, what is she gonna do? Jump up in a tree? The bear's like trying to get her while like a random man. Maybe the man's lost too, and they can help each other out. Now, if the man was living in the woods and wanted to be away for some reason, then that would be suspect. But if they're both like lost and they need to find,
if my daughter stumbled across Ted Kaczynski, that would be fucking awesome. Like why he wasn't known to be one of these sex guys. I don't want to hear Ted Kaczynski would help your daughters if they were alone in the woods.
My legit fear with Kaczynski is he'd look at like one of their hairpins and be like, "Is that made in China? Was that imported here in an oil fueled tanker?"
He'd shoot at them with trying to hit their cell phones and shit. So this is a woman definer's reaction. We have officially hit peak bear discourse. Wives are now longhousing their husbands over the bear question. My favorite part is when he suddenly realizes his wife is a retard. His wife said, "See you next Tuesday." And this is why the bear discourse matters. Everyone on the internet picked the bear. There it is. That's why and that's kind of where it ends. The wife says, "Everyone picked the bear." So part of this is the hive mind at work.
Yep.
We can call it the longhouse or whatever. But honestly, the more interesting morsel here to me is the operative words being used here. So it's not that it's bear versus a man. And women are responding to a man as a negative, and it's not qualified as a male stranger or something like that. But it's like the immediate response when they hear a man is negative, and I think that is the most salient point to be made here. That without thinking about it, without employing any of the daydream type logic that guys are immediately engaging in, the woman just hears a man says, "Oh, a man's bad. A man on his own, a man is bad. A bear is better." And of course, you don't want a bear, especially because here's what another guy would said. Well, fuck, is it a mother bear? Are her cubs nearby? Then you're dead. You're dead right away. Anyway, so what are your thoughts on this, Judas and Meta? I've ranted enough.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing, right, is I think I said this at the beginning. This is like a 2-for-1. So one, like you just get to see how like logically crazy women are about this. Somebody because I had been posting about this yesterday. I think it's insanely hilarious. But somebody posted like, I kind of see where women are coming from. It's like, you know, a guy could rape you where it's worse to be raped by a guy than it is to be mauled by a bear.
Have you ever been raped by a bear? I bet it's worse.
That too. But it's also like, that's not your options. Your options are random guy or bear, right? And so it's just this really drives home the point that just women operate off vibes. And that's fine. You know, it's like, this is something that we need to come to terms with. I was going to say this earlier is we've been fed so many lies in the mainstream. And one of the most pernicious lies is this idea that women are the same, right? They're either equally capable. They see the world the same way. They experience the world the same way, right? All this kind of stuff. It's fine that women are different, right? Like we're complementary. That's how it's meant to be. But this completely screws all of these guys who are interacting with women as if they're the same thing, right? And it's just not how they think. The other piece of this, and it's kind of what I said earlier, is that women become the filter for low value guys versus high value guys. And so you'll see a lot of these videos. There's this one other one that's out there. This guy, he plays the question, and then he like asks Google all the different statistics. He's like, how many people are attacked by bears? How many people are this? And then he's like, how many people are raped a year? And obviously the rape, like the number of rapes that happen are much higher, but it's this just complete ignorance of per capita. And I don't know if you guys like to kind of like, you know, play around with the per capita idea, but to me, like per capita.
Oh, I don't know, Judas. Like, do we like per capita talks?
So,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's fantastic. So yeah, I mean, again, it's a twofer in the sense that you get to see the insanity of women and the illogical brain, and then you just get to see all these guys who just have no understanding of per capita, or who will willingly ignore the whole per capita idea in order to kind of say the right thing. And to me, that's a sorting mechanism. And so you kind of know who's able to think for themselves versus who, you know, is going to defer to women out there.
Also, you know, just to reiterate this point, these men deeply care about their women who are prompting them with these questions. And he does have to look at like, oh my God, you don't have the survival instinct to survive on your own. Like that's a harsh realization. This is what a lot of people realize, like, oh my God, you would wander into traffic.
He's thinking like, you know, next month when we take our vacation, if you go off trail and I lose track of you and someone comes to save you, you will run from them. But if you saw a bear, you would run toward it. So I think we're going to cancel that vacation. Like, I think I can't take you into the woods.
Now, there's a point to be made here. Just to kind of cycle back to Radfem Hitler, we talked about her once on the show. That's why, you know, we kind of bring her up because I think people will be familiar with her. She had made a point before, and a lot of women, especially on the right, make this point as well. They try sort of like a right-coded feminist point, which is that, you know, women are the keepers of the genetic code. They need to be very selective with their men because they birth the progeny, and they need to filter for the best genes. So that is why, in Radfem Hitler's point, I think I am steel man at this point, that women need to be like, they're almost pro hypergamy. Like they're like, sure as shit, we're hypergamous. I would rather be with 7 of my whore friends and fuck this like ripped billionaire than like you can see them make this point before. But I kind of get in the weeds on this point. I'm not even sure if I completely believe it, but it tastes good when I say it. So it's like if you look at our society right now, your best bet for survival would actually be sort of a dweeby rich guy. Like he could actually provide you genetically the best, situation for you to raise your kids. And in fact, a lot of the archetypes and qualities that you might be attracted to would also be the archetypes of a rapist, which ironically, I'm not even saying I defend this, but it would be like evolutionarily, you're kind of stuck in the past, which means that you're probably the worst gatekeepers of the genetic code. If we are indeed in an advanced society, logic would dictate that you should be mate selecting for the highest IQ people, but you seem to regularly select for lower IQ people. Not only that, you employ hypergamy to go for lower IQ people. You actually don't want the fucking tech genius who could give you many genius kids. You want maybe like a fucking a flexing retard like Andrew Tate. You see what I'm saying? So it's like your charge of being keepers of the genetic code for a lot of these women don't seem terribly good. Now that's an extreme point. I understand that people might be retreating from that, but I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah.
I mean, I think you're right? It goes back to this whole idea of like we can't out simp the left, right? And there's kind of two parts to the woman brain, right? There's the subconscious brain of like I am attracted to chads who are strong and tall and athletic, and then there's the conscious brain that's been told like, oh, guys need to be touchy feely and they need to defer to me and like they're evil and all this kind of stuff. And so like I've been in the dating realm for a little while. I had a long-term relationship before that. And I can tell you like modern dating is just like amazingly crazy women just everywhere. And if you ever tell them that you kind of lean in a conservative bent, especially if you're on like kind of the East Coast enemy territory that I'm at, like that, they'll immediately react to that. They'll have like a knee-jerk reaction and they'll, reject you. But if you just don't even say anything, if you just exist as kind of like a, good-looking, assertive guy, like they love that. And so this is the problem that we have this like, you can't explicitly tell women any of the conservatives. I'm sure you've seen those TikToks where the girls are like, I wish I could date a liberal guy who had conservative, like who was also a conservative, right? It's like all the conservative guys, they'll hold the door open for you. They'll take care of you, all this kind of stuff, right? But they want the guy who's doing the social signaling, right? And so like they have this catch-22, like non-existent, like not possible guy that they want in their heads. And yeah, I think it kind of screws up their ability. We also had like a conversation last night with Amy Therese and a bunch of other people for the space promoting the podcast that just went live with her, where we dive a lot into this. It's very timely. And one of the girls that came up, a account called, I think, Lonely Pomegranate, and she was saying that, birth control and its resulting effects have been dire for the human race. And that's another big thing that we talk a lot about. So I'm sure you have some thoughts on that, Dimes.
Oh yeah. So I was just pulling up Amy Therese's thing here. I saw that your episode with her had actually gone live. I was just trying to find that right now.
I was gonna say you don't use the dark version of X, man. This is just
okay. This is
an abomination.
Okay. Again, there's a lot of hostility coming towards me. If you guys don't want to do this, we can stop. Just fuck it. I don't stupid. Everything's stupid. No, but I don't use dark themes. And I guess I should. That's what I'm told. You know what? Here we go. Sell me on the dark theme.
No. Amy Therese.
It's just very bright. It's just very bright. But yeah. I mean, look, she retweeted Blood Satellite. She's obviously cool.
She's one of the Bloods. That's what we call fans of Blood Satellite, obviously. Sorry. Okay. Oh, Jesus Christ, got James up here. Dime screen gives me the ick. See, this is how it turns. This is how the discourse sours. against me. Sorry, just could you briefly repeat your points? I got too far in the weeds and your question about the
Oh, we were just
the
talking
episode you did.
about, yeah. I mean, it's that catch-22, and I'm sure a lot of guys know this. You can't be like, it's funny, right? That Barbie rant that they have that like breaks all the Barbies out of their patriarchal hypnosis or whatever it is, right? Where she's like, women, you can't be like to this or to that or whatever, right? Like that's actually how I feel like it is for guys with
Yeah.
women, right? Like, and that's the thing, is everything in the mainstream is just inverted, right? It's like, oh, it's toxic masculinity that's ruining everything, and now it's toxic tolerance, right? It's all of these kind of soft things. But yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I forget the point. I remember the point I was going to make to you, which was that if you
Mm.
listen to a woman describe her dream man as you just did, they're describing a gay man. They're describing, could he be ripped but also nice and we can go shopping? Shut the fuck up. And to your point, you just said, which is that let's take that Barbie rant. So you're discussing the big speech from the Barbie film where, and I've heard this before, I heard this from feminist ideologues. They're going like, it's the Madonna whore thing. You can't be perfect. You're not allowed to be a slut. You're not allowed to be a virgin. You're not allowed to be, and they're talking about these extremes that they're expected to live somewhere between. To which I would say, yeah, it's called being normal. You're not allowed to be a saint or a fucking whore. I'm like, yeah, just do it the in between. You're allowed that you know what that middle is? It's called monogamous relationships, you fucking hoe. Like every time I hear these women talk about these poles that they live between, yeah, that's guys too. It's like, fuck, you have to be assertive, but you can't rape them. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, of course. Of course, you're expected to not to live between extremes, to be a fucking normal person negotiating their way in the world. And I keep hearing these rants and speeches by women telling me how hard it is to be a woman. They can't wrap their heads around how to do it right. You expect me to do these things? Yeah. I didn't think it was that fucking hard. I didn't think it was hard to just be nice sometimes and be mean other times. Which one is it? Am I supposed to like be a whore in the bedroom and a normal girl outside of the bedroom? Yeah, bitch. I like, what the fuck are we talking about? Every woman in America saw this. Fuck, moms brought their daughters to it. If you don't know how to wrap your head around this, you don't legally get to have a fucking vagina. When I'm in charge, like you have to have a license for that shit. A lot of these bitches don't seem to be mentally capable of doing it. Sorry, wrong. You don't get it. It's a privilege, not a right. And dimes is Canada.
Well, the funny thing too is like girls will ask advice every once in a while. What makes a good relationship? Literally, the only thing that women need to do to make a man happy is be happy themselves, right? If you're happy, if you're friendly, if you're if you're like just like a pleasant person to be around, like that's really it. It's not it's really not that hard. Like guys just want pleasant women, and that's the code. Women, like, I'm not, it was not some big secret that we're trying to hide from you. Just like be pleasant, and like
there's a biological imperative for men to protect and provide for women. So on some level, if a man is paired with a woman and that woman seems like satisfied and just generally relaxed and happy, he's thrilled. I mean, that's it, man. We're great. We're good. But even if you like, women think they're helping, but they're asking all kinds of questions and they're trying to fix things and they're trying to tweak things. Now he's on edge because what did I do wrong? Like it's yeah, like
Also,
like you said, just fucking be happy, just relax.
And let me just say this for the ladies: we are not asking you to be this. You don't need to be Pearl Davis. Pearl Davis, nice girl, I'm sure, has written some offensive songs on the acoustic guitar that I'm sure we all enjoy, but she's the type who goes a bit too far, probably because she's got, that male form of autism, where she'll go out in like a t-shirt that says, I'm a dumb bitch. Don't give me the right to vote. And just to the ladies out there, to Meta's point, men want pleasant women. You don't need to be a dummy. And in fact, I know Pearl Davis is probably out there looking for love at the Def Comedy Jam, but guys don't want to marry a retard. They don't want to marry a woman who's out there saying, "I'm dumb, don't listen to me." Like, we don't want that. That's embarrassing to our friends. We actually want to have a woman who is respectable and can have a conversation. Like, you don't need to dumb yourself down. And if you do, like, you just got the wrong read on what guys want. I don't think any guy wants just a fucking dingbat moron. You bring her around the guys and she just like, barfs out turds all the time. You don't want that. So for all the women who are like, well, I read too. First of all, don't read. Second of all, no one should read. I'm not even saying that about women. Guys, stop. I read because I'm doomed. I'll do all the reading. Everyone else,
You're a
just
saint. You read so
go
that I don't have to.
play hockey, play, basketball with paraplegic kids. Do whatever it is you got to do to feel better about yourself. So we got requited here: smoke a pipe and use a straight razor, save money. Sure. Magnetic Dreams just says brown. Not sure, but sure. Oropost, good friend of the show, had Oropost on. He's calling you Jewish.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Don't know
asshole.
the context. I don't know the context. Here we go. Dave Martell, great friend of the show, personal friend of mine. He says, I say this all the time. You can just choose to be happy. Stop being fucking miserable.
Yeah.
Just be nice.
Dave is a really cool guy. Such a swell guy. Not like Oro's Post. Dave is an absolute peach.
I think we should hear Oro's post out. Wait, Jews, does he mean me too? No, say it ain't so.
Yeah,
Dave Martell says keep buying books. Of course, buy the books from Bizarre Archives, buy the works created by our guys, Man's World Magazine, all the stuff we produce. Just to put that up. Sorry, continue, Meta.
No, I was just gonna say, we were kind of going off the Jews accusation. So I'm half Irish, and evidently I didn't know that. I have evidently a lot of reason to be ashamed of my Irish heritage. Evidently, the Irish are like the black whites or something like that.
Yeah.
But also
Irish guys and Italian guys are the ones that you're allowed to hate if you're like a liberal too.
It's so sad.
But I also ran into this great conspiracy theory someone put together where like Irish men are like running different parts of like the financial world or something like that. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, like, not to like take it to a serious place, like in the discourse on like groups that run the world, there's a pretty large contingent that are still going after the Dutch. And like going after, actually, you guys think it's Jews, but it's actually the British crown. And like you get deep in history, which actually is true in a sense. But it is just funny to be like, actually fuck the Dutch. And I'm like, okay, well, you're gonna have to sell a lot of people. We got our groups that we're going after now. Don't bring in a new group.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Dimes, will you talk about the connection between the giant psychic female dictatorship Richard Shaver talked about in his works, the connection to the Venus statuette, Starfire, and the hidden war between the Sky Father Vril and the Earth Mother Starfire?
I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna let you handle that one.
I have no fucking clue what any of that means.
I think meta.
Yeah, that's not really my wheelhouse. So,
what I would say, and what can be said that hasn't been said. What I'm going to say on that is it's a very complicated situation.
It's been.
There you go.
The Dave Martell was that. I mean, I'm willing. I don't, just to be serious, I don't know too much about that. I'd be interested in learning more. This is something we actually, if we're getting into sort of esoteric astrological stuff, ironically, one person to have on for that would be Philosophicat, who I'm sure might land on a not different end of this discussion. But we had her on the show, and it was a fantastic interview. I had a great time discussing Julius Evola, and astrology and some of the more magical parts of Evola, which don't get brought up a lot. So, maybe she knows about that. I don't get too much into the psychic stuff. Okay, they're still litigating about the okay, so we got So Judas. So they're pretty much figuring out that Jew is in your name. Maybe
we've been doing this for like 6 years. Like we've been through it already. I got to change my name though. I promise one day.
Dave Martell, Evla is gay. Not gonna lie. Fair enough. We kind of moved past Evla, haven't we? You don't hear him get brought up, except like academic agent or something. But there's not a lot of people talking about Evelyn now. Nietzsche's in.
So did we solve women? Did we do it?
Well, also, I wanted to just one more tweet from Coffee and on. This is what we're up against back on the bear discourse. Women have awful risk assessment. One of the biggest mental sex differences, as an example, women will routinely play poker worse than 13-year-old boys. Women have an emotional bias to claim men are against them. And this is really what I was trying to get at, because this has massive payoff in making men try to prove that they are not. That's an angle I don't think we addressed yet. I think there's a lot of capital there. Classic negotiation tactic, exploit, but it's baked into their world outlook. And also, we mentioned this before, women are revealed preference machines.
Yeah.
Women will frequently say one thing but do another. A couple of examples of that I'm sure people can relate to. You have people like, you see a celebrity like, not Taylor Swift, what's her name? Miley Cyrus say that, oh, I'm pansexual. I will date any man, transgender man, women, whatever, but they only date the same model of white guy, right? Or another thing is that, women talk about being so LGBT friendly, they give themselves the title of genderqueer. That's like the most popular title that teen girls would give themselves, which just happens to be the one where you don't need to do anything or change anything about yourself. It's just something you put on your fucking social media profile. So point being that women will often say and proclaim one thing, but do something completely different. So in this model, they're saying, oh, I would be more afraid of the man. Well, in that situation, would they actually, is this all part of some theatrics?
Here's a thought. We're identifying all of this. It's kind of the running theme of the whole stream tonight. And we're frustrated with it. Obviously, we're trying to make a point, right? But are we saying we hate this and we wish they would change? Or are we saying this is just how women are? It's a biological imperative. It actually serves a purpose. We need to just understand this and reorganize the way that we behave around women. Because I'm feeling like I'm in the second camp, to be honest. Like with some of this stuff, I'm glad that women are constantly shit testing. Because if they weren't, I mean, my wife probably would have married some asshole instead of me. You know what I mean? Like
this asshole.
Yeah, that's with fucking some dweeb. So, but no, really,
some
really,
other
like
dweeb.
The whole concept of like making all men prove themselves or constantly manipulating, like these things seem bad at face value if you're in a liberal frame where you're saying, like, I thought you were like a man. I thought we were all equal and we all behave the same way. And then you get fucked and women win at every social game. But if
this is a good point.
If you understand that women are fundamentally different and you never treat them like men, you treat them like a completely different animal, then this almost becomes a joyful exercise, like the thrill of the hunt. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's an element of this maybe we don't even have the experience with because this has been going on for so many generations. But I think on some level, women being fucking bitches is actually really cool. And I would love it. Maybe my grandsons will love it. I don't know. We'll see.
You know, it's like when your girlfriend or whoever asks, would you love me if I was a worm? And then what do? Do you get into a big argument or just say, yep, yes, I would. And then she's happy. She's floating on a cloud the rest of the day. That was just you'll have exchanges like that all the fucking time. Like, would you love me if this, hypotheticals. Those are the hypotheticals women like. We like hypotheticals, like, how would you take down an alligator if it had, dog rabies? And you think about it very, very seriously. That's what guys do.
Love it.
Yeah, I was laughing about that just earlier today. I was thinking about all the differences men have between each other and all the lines we draw politically, religiously, ideologically. But the one thing you can do, and this is what Joe Rogan proved, if you just slap on a nature documentary in a room full of these guys who hate each other, we'll be cool for like the duration of that nature documentary. Like you get Marxist, fascist, capitalist, whatever, just sitting there like, monkeys are fucked up. They are. And then some guy's like, how could you take on 2 monkeys? Every guy just goes, yeah, good question. How would you do it? And just like, there's your next 45 minutes. And that's a magic thing. And women will see that and they will love it and they will endorse that. Maybe I can endorse women's goofy hypotheticals. I think they have the wrong read on the bear thing. I worry about them. Are women okay? Women are not okay. Deep down, this is all the big show we're doing, but you can't be picking the bear. It means you don't know enough about bears and you've thought too much about how much you don't like men. And I think that's the heart of the problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you concur?
I do concur.
I think women have always picked the bear, though. Probably.
Explain.
I think it's again like, is this the nature of liberalized, atomized 21st century women, or is this the nature of women? Because if it's just the nature of women, then women have always picked the bear, and it's always been the role of man to slap her down and say, "You idiot, shut up." That's stupid. But we're in a frame right now where the women literally are the ones censoring and controlling the entire social media platform. So
that is true.
And there's a lot of guys who are like, the only way I'm ever going to get a little bit of poontang is by at least pretending that I have some decency. And so, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm asking the question. I don't fucking know.
So what was that word you used there?
Poontang?
Damn, can we all just meditate on Judas's a conversation mistake? No, but I like that point. I like that. Like, this is just a perennial game. And this is what I had said about, people will talk about this debate, this flare up. Like, this is just a distraction. This is a distraction from other pressing issues. This is a distraction from hating Israel, whatever it might be. Sure. But I think it's deeper than that. I think this isn't an ideological issue. This isn't a religious issue. This is a fundamental human relations issue. This is beneath everything. If we're talking about men versus women, and entire ideologies and outlooks grow from that. They emerge from that. Like, we've been debating this for thousands of years. We really have. They were talking about this in ancient Greece, this exact same shit. Because, at least on the right, we identified that there is a difference between men and women. That is essential. But if we start with that, then there's always going to be conflict. Like, this is the dialectic. We are permanently I don't even want to say trapped within, because I don't want an alternative. A lot of the leftist progressive, they will desire an alternative. They'll desire a grand leveling, but down on all people. I enjoy the differences between men and women. I think they're essential, but that means that you're going to be dealing with this shit forever. And I think really what women are upset at is that maybe power is tilted too much in their favor. So men aren't allowed to say, "You goofy hoe." There's times when you need to be told, "Shut up. That's dumb. You're being a dummy right now." And they say, "You know what? I am." There's no mechanism in society for that sort of interaction to have except online. And when that does happen, the women the army of fucking pick-me's that we are cursed with say that shouldn't be allowed. On the rare occasion I'm calling a bitch a dummy. It's like, well, this is a problem politically. It's not a problem politically. This is what guys and girls do. We call each other dumb. We criticize each other, but that has to be allowed, and that can't be offloaded onto the fucking state or whatever else they want to do with their problems. Anyway, that's what's the seventh angry rant I've been on.
Well, and it's like also this like completely ridiculous notion that we aren't also just as dismissive and mean to people who come out with like dumb bullshit comments themselves, right? Like, guys in the space, right? Someone's being an idiot in the space, especially for us. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a guy or a girl, but I don't know. I think the fundamentally, and you just kind of said it really well earlier, that you have to have a good like community group around a woman that can help like bring them back onto the right path, right? You have that inevitably everyone in a relationship, they're always going to have some sort of fight or friction moment with their significant other, right? And the girl goes to her friends or her family or whatever. And in the modern world, that group is always going to tell her like, "Oh, he's horrible, you're so right." But it used to be the case that they would set her straight, right? And that's what we really need to do is we need more people to kind of realize that we can't just keep having this drama, this divisiveness, this absolute retardation. We need to bring it back somehow. And I think like the way that has to be done is you have to always provide that structure, right? We need more other like good men around to like keep. This is the other thing, right? There's one like big point that I want to make about like how do we establish like new healthy ideals. And I think one of the big things is you have a lot of guys who are physically fit, they're successful, they can hook up with a lot of women, all that kind of stuff. They need to stop doing that, right? They need to just date intentionally. They need to like help their friends out, right? If their friend's girlfriend is going to cheat on them, like they need to set them straight. Like we need to stop like taking advantage of that, because I think like that's the counter reaction to a lot of this stuff is like, all right, women are crazy, so like don't care and just like sleep around and like play with their emotions and manipulate them and all this kind of stuff. I don't think that that's the right reaction either. It's more about like kind of being upstanding, but it's just, I don't know. It's hard to have faith that you're going to get there and kind of like put in that effort early on. And I think that's why like you have all these like MGTOW and incel guys. It's like, I completely understand their point of view, but dude, it's a wasteland. It's crazy out there.
And if I could give a piece of advice to women, and I say this as a wife guy, so I'm allowed to have opinions. There's this one, I referenced this in the paywall show I just recorded, Real Secret Coffee Hours on Gumroad and Patreon, talking about that Ayala post. That's going to be a riot. But what I was saying was there's this girl that I used to know at the last agency I worked at, and knowing her was very illuminating. She was a white girl, late 20s, single. Not to get crude, but I'd say 6 out of 10. But she looking for love, and she wanted to find her husband, and she serial monogamist is what we would call her. So this is the Taylor Swift demographic. That's her listener base. She loves romance movies, loves true crime. She watches all the Netflix shows that as a woman you're supposed to watch. And I found having discussions with her was very illuminating, because one thing I noticed about her and other women like her is they don't subscribe to creators or shows or influencers that really represent the life that they would like to live. Like, for example, she wants to get married. She has an idea of what the life she wants to live, but she doesn't listen to any married women. She doesn't listen to any mothers, and they got shows. There's all kinds of shows of like women who have it figured out. She only listens to other single busted hoes. That is, not to be mean here, that is the Taylor Swift demographic. She's an aw shucks, kind of goofy, kind of ditzy girl. She's creative and loves romance, but she just hops from guy to guy. And like, for guys, especially in our space, if you want to get in shape, if you want to get jacked, you will start listening to guys who are jacked. If you're listening to, financial advice, you'll listen to a rich guy, someone who's figured it out, to emulate them. And I find that women broadly don't really listen to people they would like to emulate. So they kind of get stuck in this feedback loop. Or they listen to, like, I'm looking for, a girl will be looking to get married, and she'll listen to Call Her Daddy, which is just like a dumb horror podcast. You know what I mean? So, but like, I would encourage more women, the women who obviously aren't listening to this, but still like, to create these spaces, I think, and this is just my read on the situation, women need to get more comfortable to listening to people who aren't just representations of them currently. They need more aspirational individuals to surround themselves with. As the men say, your network is your net worth. That sounds kind of pithy and lame, but it is true. Like, you need to surround yourself with winners. And I think if more women did that, they might find more spaces around other women to actually congregate, instead of trying to fucking sabotage each other in this crab bucket mentality all the time. Now, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Mm.
I know we've been going for a while now. I know people are probably getting tired.
No, I mean, I agree. Like, it's really to what Judas was saying earlier. Like, there's a lot of people that pull, a lot of women that will pull other women down. That's why, like, the RFH stuff, Radfem, like, to me, that's such a important thing to touch on, right? Like, we were talking earlier about, like, why are we even talking about this stuff? Like, why is it valuable? And to me, well, you know, in order for people to have a horse in this fight, right? To have some real skin in the game, you want to have a family, you want to have kids, right? So figuring out how to bring guys and girls together and start building like better family relationships, like that has to be part of the discussion that we're having broadly, right? There's definitely these more pertinent issues of crime, illegal immigration, and the trans agenda. I think those are kind of like the trinity of political issues that, especially, you know, in this election season. But making sure that there's like men actually have a realistic understanding of how women work and finding a way to bring that, you know, bridge that gap back together. I think that's going to be part of what needs to be done if there's like a solution that happens broadly. And then we also have to have internal unity in the group that's trying to do that, right? And if you have just vitriolic, toxic women like RFH who are being given a fucking platform by Alex Kashuda, and, you know, it's just shit like that just bugs the hell out of me. Because no one should be listening to these people, right? Like, Dimes, you came on my podcast like a while ago, right? And you were like, no one needs to make another fucking podcast. Like, we have all the podcasts that we need, right? And then that's the problem, is there's so much noise out there. There's so many just people who think that their opinions are worth listening to, that just need to be bullied the fuck out of the space, because not only are they fucking morons and they have nothing to say, but they're just going to be sour and unhappy and fucking vitriolic. And, you know, I think that the reason, you know, we talk about these things is to establish that and push those people out, right? And then also you just can't rant about the same things day in, day out. It's like, you know, it's nice to kind of switch it up. And lastly, I'll say, you know, there's a big thing for me is like the zeitgeist will seize upon something, right? Like the whole bear question, right? That for whatever reason, that was something that really excited people. And, you know, it was a whole meme and people really enjoyed it. And there was a lot of fun back and forth. And like, even the people who had the dumb opinions, right? Like they were still engaged. And you can say, okay, that's dumb. Obviously the answer is you pick the man over the bear. But, you know, and I think like our conversation has really illustrated this. There's a lot more to it, right? It's about understanding how, like, you know, illogical women are, and how like simps will ignore per capita in order to, you know, agree with them because they just want that female approval, and, you know, how it sorts things out. You need to be able to take the energy of a meme that's moving through the zeitgeist and amplify the good and like ignore the bad, right? Where you're refining that signal. And so anyone who's complaining about, oh, you're talking about the bear question, I just don't think they get how to interact with the zeitgeist and like how to really drive thought. And that's what I love about, you know, your podcast. You guys are always like on the nose, you're pertinent, but you also have these perennial issues that you're going through. And, you know, it's hard to balance those things.
Well, we try and keep it as relevant as possible. Thank you very much for saying that. Just I want to call a quick attention to James Nope here before I forget to do it. He says, "I do unironically believe the only that only critical mass of MGTOW is going to affect any change in female behavior." And I think that's an interesting point there. And for the record, that is, you know, who that is, Judas. That's John, our John, who, by the way, we're friends again. Did you hear this?
Yes.
Judas?
Yes, I heard that.
Getting the band back together.
Great news.
He says, at the end of the day, women have similar biological desires as men, one of those being the continuance of the lineage and propagation of the genes. The concept of hypergamy is that they consciously and unconsciously make decisions to maximize their chances of this happening. To do that, they do, in fact, need men. So if they start to see that their behavior is limiting the chances of securing men, they will change their behavior theoretically. And I just want to, like Meta's point, I do think over time, I hate using this word discourse, but the discourse has changed. Now, the fact that a word like hypergamy is being used by such a broad range of people, I think shows the success of this movement. Where in my life, I watched it grow from nothing. I wasn't very involved in it, but I think a lot of us knew this whole men going their own way MGTOW movement back in the day. And it is, as far as I know, pretty mainstream now. That is a success. Women are aware of it. These conversations are being had. And I think, to Meta's point, creating spaces where people can exit that conversation is essential because, just to give some credit to women, there is, I don't know how this all shakes out percentage wise, but there are a subset of women who are only sleeping around because they feel that is what's demanded of them by the culture. They grew up in a dating market defined by Tinder. So they believe, whether correctly or incorrectly, they need to sleep around to get a boyfriend. Again, I don't know what percentage of women that is, but there's a percentage. So maybe the more spaces we create where women don't need to be there, maybe we can actually get them before they get swallowed up by this fucking evil dysgenic machine. You know what I mean? So I think that's on our side. We're the only ones talking in that context because, and this is something we talk about on the show. Back to your point, Matt, and once again, thank you for all the kind words you say about us. One thing we're always asking is, what do you want? What are your first principles? What do you actually want? Put it down on paper, say it out loud. Like what I want, and some people, what they want is to just hurt women. They don't like women for whatever reason, so they're only involved in this discussion because they want to spread suffering. So I think it's important to identify those individuals. For us, I'm like, what do I want? Well, I want people in straight monogamous relationships that are healthy and people are happy and having big families. That is the goal. As too positive as that may be, that is what I want. What I want is a positive rather than a negative. So if I have that, I can build a pathway to that. And there's a lot of components to that. It's how do you encourage a monogamous relationship in this society? And then how do you encourage the specific gender dynamics that would facilitate that? And then that tied into that is the birth rate. Tied into that is attitudes towards abortion and divorce. That all of that, there was a different but intertwined issues. However, that is, once you ask what do you actually want, and you can identify that I want something that I think is better for everyone and something we used to have, I think that's how you can maybe get more women involved too, by saying like we actually are on the same fucking side to John's or James' notes point. Like you want kids, we actually want kids too. We guys like having kids, they like having families. We made a joke we make a joke all the time, but there's functionally no difference between like a male right-wing space and a feminist space. You go into like the most schizo-fascist chat imaginable. It's a bunch of guys trading cooking recipes, trading fucking fitness tips, and like showing photos of their kids.
My wife has become a minor e-celeb by doing this now, somehow.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. We got one from Owen Zaleski. I listened to the WBS, that's White Boy Summer, apparel space last week. I was able to say that women need role models that women can model their lives on. Catholics have Mary and the saints as well as the path as nuns. We've got Dave Martell here. Hypergamy is entirely a symptom of the technosphere. In folk futurism, the e-whore economy will be made obsolete by AI, girlfriend, VR sex, RIP whoredom. That's phrased as a negative thing. That sounds like I'm seeing nothing but sunrises here. So let's see. Blake Smith, yo, let's go, boys. First time catching the episode live. We got some very, very good discussions in the chats. Anyway, so I know we gotta get going. So we've been going for a long time. Meta, you've given us so much of your time this evening. And I hope this was an impromptu stream. We've had a very positive feedback on this. We didn't have a whole lot planned for this episode, but I think it was catching lightning in the bottle. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. I think it's really great when we have someone like Sargon, interacting with the Anosphere, because, and I think this is something that a lot of people see, is like there seems to be this kind of very astroturfed group of right-wing pundits out there, and you can kind of see through their shit. Sargon like kind of caving to the don't be mean to women whole thing is a pretty strong indication that he doesn't have the foundational ethos that we'd really want to see. And then anytime, we get to interact with that and get to hold them to task and make them feel a little bit bad about, how wrong their views are. I always think that's great. And this isn't the only way we win, right? I'm not like a Yarvin diehard in the sense that he's like, oh, you just got to be, culture, bro. It's like only culture. It's like, no, we got to go out there. We got to build. We got to meet people. Got to do other stuff. But we can't be libertarian and just kind of like retreat out off social media into the woods. We've got to beat these people up online a little bit. So I appreciate you giving me the chance to come on and talk a little bit about this, and finally get to meet Judas. I get to kind of bump around in the Blood Satellite chat that you guys have, and finally get to meet the real brains of Blood Satellite.
That's me. Hey, welcome. Good to meet you.
Yeah, you'll fit in fine every time there's episode. Judas had a lot of really good takes this episode. Just me clenching my teeth.
Is that news? I mean, are you surprised? What's going on? Jesus.
He's good. He's a real good host. And I also wanted to say just a piece of practical advice to give to the people out there. I think we had a good thing with the word hysterical. Like we need to tell women, if they say something dumb, what can you say? We used to say you're being hysterical. You didn't need to call them a bitch. You didn't need to call them a retard. You say you're being hysterical. I think we bring that back. A lot of this goes away, like sands through the hourglass. And again, just to end on like a positive note, like to betray every point I've made up until now, what we do actually want, like we're not mean necessarily towards women. We just have more dynamic filters in this side. And if anything, I actually think we need more filters. Maybe we just need to negotiate what those filters look like. But I think anyone who's telling you that we need fewer filters into this space should be treated as a hostile agent, an agent of the demiurge. and then we can just end on that. Meta, before we go, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm primarily on X. My @ is @metaprime001. I also have a website, metaprime001.com. Go check that out. That has links to all the other platform stuff that I'm on, including Substack. I have a podcast of my own. It's called the Metacast. Mostly what I do is I pull on people from the Anon space, and we have some conversations. We were lucky enough to be graced by Dimes, and he was actually pretty coherent for that episode. So if you're interested in
Look
that,
what you've done to him. Look what you've done. This was my friend, and then you come into contact with this motherfucker. And it's like, yeah, you're kind of fucking not a queer that episode. Okay, sure. Okay.
So you guys should definitely go check that out. And then the website, what's great about that is it's all my perennial content, right? I'm trying to lay out a philosophy for how do you break from the mainstream delusion and join what I call the parallel movement. Talk about spirituality. I have other thoughts and stuff like that up there. But if you have someone in your life who's going through that process of realizing everything's bullshit, and they're kind of, because at least this happened to me. I made a lot of mistakes early on. I burned a lot of bridges. I got really into conspiratainment stuff. And I think really what it's about is self-improvement, growth, going out there, being competent. And so just really encouraging people to do that. There's a lot of great people in our space who are really facilitating that, like our good friend Axios Health. I don't know if Dimes you want to, is now might be a good time.
Oh yeah. I've mentioned them every show. I didn't want to mention because I've actually fallen off because I hurt my fucking arm this week, so I haven't done any of my exercises. And I know he's looking at the app he gave me, like, what the fuck? So I'm kind of dodging Axios right now. However, it's a great service. It's good. It's good to have a personal trainer who can help whip you into shape. And like I said before, like the reason, even if you're into fitness, even if you're into lifting, it's easy to get stuck into a rut. It's easy to get stuck in the same routine. You're not looking forward to it. And then you're slacking. Then you're not getting gains. So it's good to have just another set of eyeballs on, even remotely, which is what he offers, giving you a routine, giving you your sets to do, and keeping you accountable, and also putting you in touch with like other guys from our space, other like content creators, other sort of right adjacent guys, getting into that community and holding each other accountable, which I think is that's kind of what you miss out by not going to the gym. So this is trying to, I think, fill the gap in that culture, and I think that works pretty well.
Yeah,
Anyways.
and that's the great thing about our space is there's a lot of really competent, smart people who, really can give you the shortcut of not having to figure out this, all this stuff yourself, right? And yeah, so Axios does some good stuff there. I actually working with a business partner of mine, we're going to be rolling out a supplement brand, which I know sounds super grifty, I know, but he's been an MD for over a decade, runs his own practice, really knows his stuff. And so we've got stuff like we've got a T boost, we've got a xenoestrogen detoxifier, and then we're gonna put out a anti-inflammatory, which on its face is just anti-inflammatory, but really it's for your friends and family who might have bought into the narrative and got jibbity jabbed, and you want to give them something that's going to help them out there. So trying to equip our guys with some good quality products to make sure that they're well taken care of.
I think that's a good as place to end as any, because we're going at 2.5 hours now. Thank you so much for taking the time. Judas, thank you as well. Thank you for turning another comrade and ally against me.
You did it yourself, Dimes. You're just such an easy punching bag.
As the great Tom York said, you do it to yourself, you do.
And that's why it really hurts. Yeah.
And that's why I was going to say that's why it really hurts. Oh, Kel is saying, read it. What should I be reading? Anyway, see you guys later.